And what's happening, guys? Welcome along to another episode of the 420 News, and it is 422. What's happening out there, guys? Welcome along, and it's been a short while since we done the last video yet again. I've been a little bit inconsistent with getting the streams out, but forgive me, guys. Forgive me. I am trying my best. Having a difficult one with a lot of stuff at the moment. I will just say this, and I won't say any more on other things. Is just I wish cannabis prohibition was my biggest problem right now. Others who know me probably know what I'm talking about. I've alluded to it in the past as well. We talked a little bit about it, but I'm not even going to visit it because yeah, we don't want to be getting emotional on here. Yes, this is some white wine we're sipping on here today. Enjoying the flavour for the Saturday. We get shoutouts, guys. Get your howdies, get everybody's hellos coming into the hotbox. We'll give shoutouts in a couple of seconds. First, we'll pack up a ball. But yes, guys, it's Saturday. Hopefully everybody's having a mighty fine weekend, or at least the bit of the weekend we've had so far is going good feet. And hopefully the rest of it's going to end epically for y'all as well. So sturdy with this camera. One second, I'm going to point this camera up a little bit more. That seems better to me now. Yeah, there we go. The camera was too high. Hey! Sorry, couldn't resist it. Couldn't resist. Oh, I can already hear him in the other room saying, "Ah, Dad, those jokes." Guys, nice one. See the chats coming in there in the hot box. Keep them coming, guys. Keep them coming. We'll pack up a bowl. We'll blaze one, and we'll give shout outs to the people in the hot box, and then we'll dive into some of the content that we have lined up there for today's 420 news. Got a little bit of news of my own to be sharing. We've got a little bit of news from Germany, as many people have been talking about it, but we also have news from other places. I believe we're going to go to Kentucky for a little bit of news. I believe we got some news out of the UK. Anywhere else off the top of my head that I can recall? No, not right now, but yeah, we've got a bit of news lined up anyway, as it is a news show. But unfortunately, there's not a whole lot new here. Cannabis is still illegal. But you all knew that, didn't you? Unless you're over there in one of these other countries like Malta. Yeah, as we'll be talking a little bit about Malta as well. Yeah, so blaze one up, guys. If you're out there, if you've got something packed, if you've got something rolled, or if you've got an edible lying by, let's engage in a little bit of civil disobedience together. And if you ain't got nothing out there, guys, then this one is for you also. So again, just a little bit of civil disobedience here on the show. If it's your first time on the show, guys, welcome. But this is always a central piece of the show, the civil disobedience. Some people might see it like a fella who's just smoking cannabis on a camera. But no, guys, that's a public display of civil disobedience. That's me openly breaking the law. Showing very little respect for it, as it has no respect for me or others like us out there. So that's what that is. It is also a guy just hitting a bong too. But it's a lot more powerful than that when you do it in a public display like that. Brandon, absolute hero. Nice one for sharing the stream out there over on the old Facebook. Much appreciated. Guys, if you're over there on Facebook, why don't you follow Brandon and hit that share button? Pamela's out there as well on Facebook. What's happening, Pamela? It's nice to see yourself as well in the hot box, Pamela. And I'm glad to see you're delighted I'm back. It's good to be back. As I said, I didn't really go anywhere. I've just been occupied with other things. I'm a little bit higher up the priority list, unfortunately. But I have been just dying to get back on here to do this. As I've said many times before, this is very much therapy for me in this crazy world of prohibition. I feel like I'd just go crazy if I didn't vent through a medium like this. So very much thanks to all of you out there, guys, for receiving me. Toto, what's happening, Toto? Welcome along. Hopefully all's well up there on the east coast of Ireland. And no, out the west coast of Ireland. Jeez, I'm always mixing up my east and west. Out there in the lovely Galway, I believe. Hopefully all's well up there with you and the old Madry. Billy Bonds, what's happening? Pod's out there as well. Jog OG, what's happening, guys? Sir Renable, welcome to the hot box, guys. Karan C is out there as well. Aragon, what's going on? Says good afternoon, guys. Back to work in 30 minutes. Just catching the chat, or just catching the start. What's going on, Aragon? Hopefully you're not working too hard there today. A nice relaxed Saturday. Otherwise, hopefully time flies for you at work and you're home soon. What's out there? Edzar, what's happening? Edzar's asking about CanCard. Yeah, we can have a little chat about CanCard at some stage there. If you have any specific questions you want to throw in there, Edzar, fire away. Otherwise, we might leave that till a little bit later on. I might have a little chat about CanCard. Kevin Dunn out there as well. What's happening? Kev, Pip Jam, Pods. We give Pods a shout out as well. Says love a bit of 420 news. Smoking a bit of a GSE or Girl Scout cookies. It's fairly tasty. Blaze up. Nice. Very nice, actually. I don't believe I've actually had Girl Scout cookies. I think I've had like something crossed with Girl Scout cookies, but I don't believe I've actually had any Girl Scout cookies. I'm trying to think, even when I went over to Amsterdam, I can't even recall like seeing it on the menu. I know the lads bought some of that Cali stuff over there, but I think that was like biscotti and I wanted to get like Zittles or something like that as well. No Girl Scout cookies, unfortunately, for me. It's tasty. I just packed up a bowl of some Serious Black. Serious Black. It was from Seedsman. I think that's where it came from. Gotta give a shout out to Hunter out there. If you're out there, Hunter, much appreciated. Hunter gifted those seeds to myself, and that led to the procurement of this bowl. So Hunter, much appreciated, pal, for those beans. This Serious Black is it's quite serious, to be fair. And if you don't know, guys, Serious Black, I believe it's a reference to Harry Potter. There you go. There's is it potheads? Those potheads. Yes. Peter Kelly says it's a bit of therapy for us all. Yeah, appreciate that, Peter, and glad to see that it brings something similar, like similar enjoyment to yourselves as well. In terms of the therapeutic aspect. Anyway, I know many people have said it to me before. That the hotbox, even just conversing and within the hotbox, that they've got to find and get to know people. People who lived nearby them as well, that they didn't even know it would have been a talk, or only for they got chatting in the hotbox. So it's really cool, knowing that the community is just getting strengthened by this, and other places too, which is great. Gordon O'Keefe, what's happening? Says happy jazz weekend. Oh yeah, that's right. It's the jazz weekend here, actually. Yeah, hopefully anybody out there doing a bit of jazzing. They're like jazz and cannabis are kind of synonymous together. You know, back in the day, it was very much a part of the scene, especially in America, where it was those black jazz musicians, trying to corrupt our good white women. Remember that Harry Anslinger, fucking Langer, these racist tendencies. Yeah, jazz and cannabis certainly have got a strong linkage, but it's never really reflected here. It's something that they'd never even talk about. If you were to bring it up, say what was that song about the Muggles, wasn't it? The Muggles, wasn't it? But the Muggles, that was like a code word for giants, I believe. If my fucking cannabis history is accurate. But yeah, there was a lot of songs there. Isn't it a Reefer Man? So yeah, there was lots of songs there tied in, jazz songs tied in with it, but the jazz community here, I suppose, this weekend will not be acknowledging that, unfortunately, but we'll do it, won't we? Should have made that a bit more of the show, actually, as I think about it, tied in a little bit of the jazz and cannabis culture there, just, for the relevance of the weekend. Maybe that's a little video I can work on there this evening. Quadrex Josh, what's happening? Says, hi Martin, hope you're well, bud. As you can see, smiling anyway, enjoying a little glass of white wine, and that is just a glass, so I won't be having much more than that. Maybe a second, as it's quite hasty. Crancy says, Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone. Yes, and Bobby O'Brien says, the hot box is fire. Yeah, it's on fire here at the moment anyway, guys. And keep it burning, guys. Keep it burning. Keep all the old communique coming through as we tear on into some of the content that we've lined up here on the show today. As I said, we're going to go to Germany for a little bit of the news from Germany. As many of you know, that Germany are seeking to legalize cannabis over there. Talked about this quite a bit in the past, but now it seems like they've recently officially announced the outlines of the bill over there in Germany, which is great, because there was a leaked bill that came out initially, and it wasn't that great. They were talking about THC caps for adults, THC caps for those aged between under 18 or under 21 and over 18. Sorry. So there was a couple of negative things there within the leaked document. There was talk of them only allowing 2 plants, but that's now being increased as well. So the official announcement, I've got written down here. The official announcement on cannabis legalization in Germany is this, as follows. Cannabis and THC will no longer be classified as narcotics within Germany following the passage of this bill. And it's not yet passed, so again, guys, this is just a bill that's going to be supported by the government over there, but there is a bit of barriers there to overcome, and we'll get to that as well in a little bit. It says also, consumers can purchase and possess a maximum of 30 grams of cannabis. Like, this good, but it's also bad. It's kind of, you have to ask the question, why is it limited? Why can you not go in and buy as much cannabis as you can afford within a shop? Well, what are they suggesting by not allowing you as a cannabis consumer to walk in, like a tobacco consumer or an alcohol consumer is also entitled to walk in and buy as much as they can afford of their drug of choice. If it's vodka, you can walk in. I don't believe there is any limit to the purchase of vodka in Germany, so you can pretty much walk in, buy as much as you'd like. But for us cannabis consumers, they seem to think it's okay to discriminate against us in this way and limit it at 30 grams. I think it's a shortcoming, but again, you can understand the reason behind it. They have to satisfy the prohibitionists' minds that they're going to be arguing against to get this over the line. So you can see why they're putting it in there, but it's wrong. And I do think there's a bit of campaigning that will be needed to be done to remove limits such as this. Especially when there is no limits for consumers of other drugs such as alcohol and tobacco. So they talk about the private cultivation of cannabis. There will be an allowance of 3 flowering female plants per person in the home. That was a very interesting wording of that. It was 3 flowering plants. So my understanding with that is that basically you can have as many vegetative state plants in a house as you would like. So effectively, you could have a bazillion plants as long as there's only 3 in flowering, you're not breaking any laws. I like that. I like that. I do. I would argue against the tree plant limit. I think it's kind of silly. Like maybe increase it a little bit more. But I like that side of it, that they're only putting a limit on the amount of flowering plants that you can have within the home. I like also that it's 3 plants per person in the home as well, not per adult in the home, which is also good. 3 plant limit, it's quite small, but in fairness, if you've got 3 plants and if you've got an allowance there to have as many vegetative as you want, well, effectively you can veg a plant up to be a nice hefty plant, stick it into flower, and flower 1 plant underneath a nice 600 watt, LED or something along those lines, and get like, I don't know, you could be talking about 12 ounces per plant if you veg it enough and if you do it right. Like you have 3 plants, 3 lights, 3 plants. You could effectively be harvesting 36 ounces off of those 3 plants if you done it right. And most people probably wouldn't put that effort in. They'll probably just stick a seed into the ground, veg it for about 2 to 4 weeks, and then harvest it at about 3 to 4 ounces off of the plant. Happy days, 3 to 4 ounces per plant. That's still 12 ounces there off of those 3 plants every 3 months. Like, I don't know about you or me, but 12 ounces every 3 months, I'd be a happy boy if I was able to safely cultivate that, knowing that my door is not going to be taken off the hinges by some gangsters in uniform claiming to be protecting the public while terrorizing my family. So I think it's a good thing. I still think there's room for argument there to increase the limit. But look, hey, there's an unlimited amount of vegetative plants, which is great. That means like there's a huge opportunity there for like mothers and clones and all of that stuff as well, which is it's great. The sale of cannabis, it will only be allowed from licensed stores, so that's to be expected. Licensed stores, much like a law license, a place that has a license to sell it, and also possibly pharmacies. So pharmacies, because they've already got like a legal medical cannabis market over there in Germany anyway at the moment, with a dispensing going on through the pharmacies. So there's probably going to be an increased dispensing through the pharmacies now, with more patients seeking to get access to cannabis. So that's good. Advertising of cannabis will not be allowed. I like that as well, but I think that should be across the board to all drugs. I don't know, here, like what do you think out there? Like, I think if a good drug is good enough, that it's not going to have to be advertised, to be fair. And a lot of the times, the advertising that only it only benefits the big industries, because they can afford to buy off the advertising on the side of buses, bus stops, the movies and the cinemas and all of that kind of stuff. So I think that's a good thing. But I do think we need to have a conversation across the board. Say sporting events like the GA, is alcohol really a place there, like having the Heineken cup? Again, it's a conversation to be had. I definitely think there's a bit of issues having drugs cross over into sports, but that's just me. But again, happy days. No advertising of cannabis. I don't really disagree with that one, but I do think if they're allowing advertising of, say, alcohol, then you could argue, well, why aren't you allowing cannabis? But again, I would make the argument that, look, no drugs should be advertised. I think if a drug is good enough, people are going to seek it out, and you shouldn't be going to the person paying the top dollar, just to get their name in front of you, get that subliminal messaging going, get it printed in there, Smyrna. Just throwing it out there, the first one that comes to mind. Like, there was no advertising needed really for this wine, this glass of wine. I went down to the store, you were looking through the bottles, kind of like, yeah, that one sounds nice, happy days. Read the label of the bottle, I went there, I was seeking it, I read the label, and that's the only advertising should be at the point of sale, and that's kind of what they're limiting it to here. Happy days. Tasty wine, made a good choice. So she did. Age limit. There'll be an age limit for entry to licensed premises. And that age limit will be 18. And that's good, that's a good thing. They have a similar thing here in Ireland, actually, at the moment, for like places where gambling goes on in bookies. You actually can't take your kid into a bookie. I didn't realize this at all a couple of years ago when Kelsey was only a little toddler. I was going in to throw money into my account because I think there was like UFC on that night. And they're like, oh no, the child has to go out. And I was like, but the child's with me and we're on our own and just throw money into my account. They're like, no, you can't have kids in here at all. But I didn't know, But I wouldn't argue against that. I don't think there should be kids within a licensed premises where the sale of cannabis is going on, especially if there's going to be consumption there as well. They haven't introduced it into the bill, but they are talking about allowing for cannabis cafes, kind of that's kind of in inverted comma type things, those little air quotes. Cannabis cafes, like lounges where people can go and consume their cannabis, whether they'll be attached to the licensed premises. That's yet undecided, but it's not yet within the actual bill. It could be amended for later on as the bill goes through different stages. But right now it's not in there, but they are talking about it. A cap on THC limits. Initially, there was going to be a cap on THC limits of 15%, and that's for everyone across the board. But they've removed that now because they knew that that's just going to drive so many people back to the black market, because there's so many cannabis strains now over 15%. So many people would have just went back to the black market. So they decided to go against that. But what they are introducing, though, or at least they're considering introducing, is a THC cap for those under the age of 21. So those aged 18 to 21, they will be limited at the THC content within the product. 10% is what the limit has been thrown out there at the moment. They're saying this has been done in order to reduce the risks there towards the younger adolescent mind, the undeveloped brain, so to speak, that they're referring to there. But again, it's not yet decided whether they're going to go ahead with that. They're considering introducing it, but right now it's not there. But again, I think it's something to be considered, but I do think there is an issue there then if people have to be, selling cannabis to younger people, that it's a bit higher strength. It could be an issue, because they've also included here that the selling of cannabis without a license is still going to be a criminal offense. And I don't disagree with that to a point, as long as getting a license is going to be easy for people and it's not going to be too restrictive, then I wouldn't disagree with that. I think, criminalizing anybody for the unlicensed sale of a drug is kind of a good thing, as long as it's easy to get that said license to sell that drug. So I think that's, again, a good thing. So again, Germany really leading the way here with these recommendations. It's going to be the most restrictive market yet, from what we can see. Obviously outside of the markets where prohibition exists. But comparing it to the likes of America, Canada, or even Uruguay, it's quite restrictive. They go on to say that a special cannabis is planned based on THC content. Oh, sorry, I never wrote in the word tax there. I was wondering, a special cannabis tax is planned based on THC content. So as well as the regular sales tax, you're going to be introducing a special cannabis tax that's going to be based on a THC percentage. And they're saying they're going to be doing this to bring it in line with the price of cannabis on the black market. And I think that's wrong, to be fair. I think that they should just apply a sales tax and that be it. I think if they're going to put a special cannabis tax on it, they're going to overtax it. And then, yeah, if it does go to the price of the black market, there's possibly going to be people out there on the legacy market, as they will call it after legalization, who will still have a lot of people who support them and will come to them. And if the cannabis at the store is going to be, at the same price as the stuff the other fella that they'll be getting it for years off of, well, they're just going to keep going to that person. So I do think they should be aiming more to have it cheaper than the black market, not that match the black market with special cannabis taxes based on THC percentages. It's silly. It's not a sensible approach, to be fair. But again, money is probably the bottom line here. It's like, all right, we're going to make money off of this, and we're going to slap a load of taxes on it. That was to be expected, I suppose, isn't it? But again, that's what's just going to drive consumers to the black market. Cannabis edibles. So cannabis edibles, they won't be prohibited, but the sale of them will be prohibited. So you or I could make our own edibles, share them with one another, but selling them is completely strictly prohibited still and against the law, and it'll be probably a criminal offense, I would imagine, or at least maybe hefty fine. Licenses are revoked if it's a cannabis store who is doing it, who has a license. Who knows? Cannabis edibles, like, yeah, do I have an issue with that? Like, I kind of do, I suppose, in a sense. But at the same time, you can walk into the shop, buy as much weed, well, 30 grams of weed. Sorry, not as much as you want, actually. Jesus, really put my foot in it there. You can go in and buy like 30 grams of weed, and you can go home and make your own edibles. So happy days in that one. But yeah, like, for those who can't make edibles, like for the people who don't have the knowledge, the know-how to do an extraction, like if you've people relying on themselves to go home and do it, like how many people are going to make it too strong? I know I do. I know I have a habit of making it too strong. Like the dose of brownies that I make is to be just off the charts compared to, say, the dose of a brownie in a regulated environment, such as I believe in somewhere in California, I think Colorado or somewhere like that, they have a serving limit of 10 milligrams. So a serving can't contain any more than 10 milligrams. I think that's a sensible approach to a point. Like, I think that's quite a small serving size. But again, to the new cannabis consumer, that's quite a nice dose, to somebody who's not really consumed cannabis before. 10 milligrams of THC, that's a nice little dose to start off with for that person. So to each their own. But I definitely think that's kind of unfair for those who can't make it, not to be able to go in and get it off of somebody who's maybe done a couple of years of culinary school in college, and they've got these exquisite skills, to really perfect the art of baking, or treat making, whatever it's called, confectionery making, yeah, whatever it's called. Anyway, these people who've really got a passion for it, and to be able to experience what they have to offer, I think there's a bit of a missed opportunity there as well. And again, it's only been done to kind of satisfy the mind of the prohibitionist. MB Sanchez as well, showed in a super chat, and for the cause, allegedly. 100% for the cause, if you consider keeping the lights on here anyway, for the cause, keeping this message going out there for the cause. Any extra leftover finances there have contributed to flyers, to train tickets and stuff like that to get to protests. But yeah, it's all going to the cause anyway, that's for sure, because I still find myself sticking my hand into my own pocket more often than not, that they continue to fight the cause here as well and keep the lights on and all of that stuff. But guys, yes, every like that, like MB Sanchez super chat there, it does definitely help the cause. Much appreciated. See lots of comments coming in there as well. MB Sanchez says, great to see you streaming again, Martin. As I said, it's good to be back. I've had a lot of stuff on my plate to deal with there, but I did manage to secure this time there today, and I'm really glad for it. Who else out there? Ian Homegrown says, good to see you streaming, bro. We all missed the 420 news, man. Much like myself, I really do miss it, but probably not as much as some of you out there. Mr. Finnegan says, Martin's brownies have been known to make certain people have a wonderful time by themselves in back gardens, apparently. Little inside joke there. We won't say no more because I don't want to embarrass people. But yeah, there was a bit of a very, very funny situation after my brownies there. When was that? About a month or so ago. And it involved, yes, pants and underwear being removed in the backyard. Nah. And it wasn't me. Shaggy would say, it wasn't me. Funny night though, funny night. All right, we'll go on and finish off this. The German regulators also have included that education, prevention, counselling and treatment services are to be expanded following on from legalization, and I'd imagine that some of the revenue generated from the special cannabis tax will be ring-fenced to fund such expansions. So again, there maybe is, that's the kind of the reason behind the cannabis taxes, is that they have to come up with these extra finances to expand these different services. But I think they'll find over time that these services, that they're probably not going to be as needed as what they might think. Because again, I think the sky is going to fall or something following legalization. We're going to have all of this stuff prepared to help everybody, but it's not really going to happen, and they're going to find that these services are going to go largely unused. I would imagine. Not completely unused. I will imagine there's going to be people who are going to have a bit too much. Some people running around with no pants, nothing nowhere. But yeah, like that particular night, like this particular person was asking for an ambulance, and luckily I was just, you're going to be okay. You don't need an ambulance. Like honestly, the person thought, I'm going to be like this forever. I'm going to be stuck stoned forever. A couple of hours later, like the person was fine. But in another situation, had that person been on their own, you might find that the ambulance services are probably going to be getting a couple of more calls, and it's going to be another person at the end of the line saying, "I think I'm having an overdose of cannabis." Like, what's that? Have people heard that cop call? Gonna see if I can just find it. I'm not too sure how long the clip is. Oh yeah, I think this is it's a minute 27. I think it's worth popping up there just so you can see this.
A councilman from Dearborn, Michigan is outraged over a
This is not it. This is it.
A councilman from Dearborn, Michigan is outraged over a 911 call. He wants to know why no charges have been filed against a police officer who admits to confiscating marijuana from suspects and then baking it in brownies. And once he and his wife were full and high, they thought they'd overdosed and called 911.
I think I'm having an overdose, and so is my wife.
Overdose of what?
Marijuana. I don't know if they had something in it. Can you please send rescue?
Do you guys have fever or anything?
No, I think we're dying.
Okay, how much did you guys have?
I don't know. We made brownies, and I think we're dead. Time is going by really, 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 really slow.
Well, instead of being charged, instead of being charged, the police department let the officer resign. His wife was not charged either. So far, police officials have not commented on the case.
Now, how do you follow a story like that?
Hilarious though, but yeah, you probably have many incidents like that. But again, like, you're just gonna laugh at them. Like, any ambulance paramedic person is going to shut to somebody in that condition. They're just going to be like, here's some orange juice, you're going to be okay. That's all they can really do for them. It's just, look, you're actually going to be okay. You're going to be fine. But I think if the more education gets out there about this, maybe that will reduce as well, because these people, they still have the effect of the reefer madness there. That's still deeply embedded in the minds of many people, especially if you're a cop. So that cop genuinely thought, I'm going to die. Time is going really slowly. I must be dying. I'm going to die. But meanwhile, like me, you, or like many of us out there, we know, no, you're not going to die from cannabis. It is highly, highly unlikely that you're going to die from a cannabis brownie of any sort, unless it's after being made with some rotten eggs. But yeah, I'd imagine there's going to be a little bit of that. But I think a very important thing as well about the German mission to legalize cannabis, it's going to include the collection of data, and they'll analyze this data on the social effects of ending cannabis prohibition. And after 4 years, they're going to revisit the regulations for review, and if necessary, adjustments will be made in regard to the health and child and youth protection. So happy days, again, in a couple of years, they will come back and look at this. So in 4 years, they'll be coming back, doing a review, gathering the data and analyzing it, and making adjustments. Hopefully those adjustments will include, an increase in the amount of plants that a person can grow at home, a removal maybe of the limit of THC for the younger population, allow them to make choices too, because I believe they'll be probably, they're going to be disappointed at the fact they can't get access to it. Again, a younger person can walk in, they can buy beer, they can buy whiskey, vodka, all of that stuff. Let them have the high strength cannabis if you're letting them have the high strength alcohol. That's my thing to it anyway. But the German mission, guys, sorry, and I'm dragging this one out. The German mission, it's not going to be without its barriers. There's going to be yet a couple of hurdles for them to overcome, but a number of them are going to be kind of regulatory hurdles. So we've talked about it before on the podcast, the Single Convention on Narcotics of 1961, which was amended in 1972 or something like that. There's that. There's also, what's the other one? The Convention on Psychotropic Substances, 1971, and the UN Convention Against Illicit Trafficking in Narcotics and Psychotropic Substances, 1988. So these conventions limit cannabis use to medical and scientific purposes only. They completely restrict the regulation of the recreational use of cannabis. The neighbours of Germany, of which there are a number, they're complaining now. They're complaining that there's going to be a spillover of cannabis from Germany into their countries. Only one country neighboring Germany actually has some form of a cannabis market. That's the Netherlands, Holland. They basically have got this decriminalized version of it where they've tolerated cannabis. It's not exactly legal yet in Holland. The German mission seems to be much better, because the German mission actually they are actually banning the import of cannabis. I forgot to bring that one up there, but they've actually banned the import of cannabis, meaning that any cannabis going to be consumed within Germany is going to be German-grown cannabis, which is only a good thing for the Germans. Happy days. But the Dutch, unfortunately, they're really missing the mark on that one, because it's only like 3 years ago, they started having conversations around regulating the production of cannabis within Holland. All of the cannabis that's consumed in Holland, it just magically appears out of nowhere. Like, it doesn't come from anywhere. The cafes just have an allowance of 500 grams, and it comes just magically out of the sky. Nobody produces it. Nobody sells it to them. It just is there. It's mad that's existed for so long over there, and so many people point to it like it's a good, like, the Dutch do great, and like it's good to a point, but it's not great, to be fair. You know, they still have a very strong link over there with the organized crime gangs. I suppose biker gangs are a very big part of the Dutch market over there, and maybe that's why the politicians in Holland are probably so afraid to try to make a change, you know, because the biker gangs are probably hardcore. Who knows? But hopefully they can overcome these barriers. Hopefully their neighbours can, you know, actually kind of say, hey, look, maybe it's time we start reviewing our own cannabis policies too and make a change, because that's one way in which Germany can actually overcome this. So hopefully maybe Holland will be the country to come together with Germany, and together then there's a stronger argument then to be made for Germany and, say, Holland, if they partner with Germany and look to seek to legalize and regulate the market over there, that they can get what's known as an exemption from these conventions. It'll be a difficult and probably a long fought battle, possibly taking years yet. And I hate saying that, right? It really does. It kills me to say that. It possibly could be a long drawn out battle before Germany sees legal cannabis happening over there, because of these conventions and because of this bureaucracy and BS red tape. But that's the reality of the situation here within Europe. A country, if it decides itself that it wants to end prohibition, it seems that it can't do it, because it's kind of got an even bigger daddy government called, you know, the European Commission or whatever, and these UN conventions too, which are somewhat legally binding. If they can breach them, and if they breach them, there's actually no sanctions for breaching these. So it's most likely that they'd have to go to like some form of a court, and they would probably just receive fines, and there wouldn't be much against them. They mightn't be able to take part in discussions around narcotics. So any of the narcotic convention, any of the meetings around narcotics, they wouldn't be able to take part in them. That's another punishment that could happen to the Germans should they breach or in violation of these conventions. But look, we'll keep an eye on the situation. We'll report back to you as things develop over there. But that's the state of the landscape over there at the moment. It's quite restrictive. I've got my issues there with one or two things, but look, largely it's fucking hooray. Let's go. Look, this is for you, Germany. Legalize. So, what else do we have? We've nothing else written into my book. We've got a couple of other news articles to get through. But first, let's see what people are saying out there in the hot box. If Max says the in-betweeners when he took cannabis at the pub. The in-betweeners was a great show. Actually, I haven't seen that in a long time. Sorry, I know that comment was probably out of context, but Teresa says, I lost 3, nearly 4 at the young lad's birthday to them, and I believe that's in reference to those brownies, yeah? Oops. His Pods for 420 says Martin puts synthetic extracts into his brownies, you see? Nothing but pure FICO, my man. FICO. Full extract cannabis oil. Sometimes we will extract like straight from a bit of bud or leaf into the, like say the butter in order just to get a bit more of that flowery taste. As sometimes I find that the Fico itself has kind of a very rose flavor. I don't know if people are into Turkish delights, but I find like that taste always comes through anytime I make brownies with only oil. That I always get a kind of a rose taste. I don't know why that is, but I love it. Really love it. It's dangerous because I end up eating too many brownies then because they're just too tasty. Liv Max says cannabis taxes are taxing the sick that need it again. Also, services are not offered to you until you ask for the 10th time. If they actually make it easier to use the services, it would be so much better. Again, the Irish government fails us. Yeah, no surprise there. Yeah, it's so true. You know, taxes on cannabis a lot of times is just taxing the sick that need it, and it's just burdensome on people who don't need to be going through with that at all. Ryan Duggan giving a shout in there as well. Says Hala from the Island Man. Football as well. Nice one. If Max says thanks for doing all you do. I can't move out of my bed and no one is helping. Nearly a year waiting for the cannabis license. Ah, shit, Liv. I'm sorry to hear you're in that situation. It's unfortunate. A year waiting on the cannabis license. Are you in a situation where your license application has been submitted already, so Liv? Or are you still just waiting to get the application for the license? I'd love to know more there in your situation. And again, you know, if you ever want to come on here and have a conversation and highlight the injustice that you're facing at the moment, you know, the suffering, because it is wrong. It's unjust what's going on. If you were to start growing cannabis or you have to go out and get it yourself, you're seen to be a criminal. Whereas you're a patient, you're pain, you're suffering, and the cannabis use would alleviate that now, give you a higher quality of life. And why should you be a criminal for that? So it's unjust. But I can respect your privacy there as well, or don't want to come on here and chatting about it. But again, the invitation is there. Drop me a message if you ever want to share your story. Yeah, we are. Liv saying here, we're still waiting for a review of the license for people with chronic pain conditions, so I won't hold my breath. Yeah, that's right. The review is supposed to be happening there at the moment. Should be finished. The review is supposed to be ongoing. But it should be finished, and they should have the findings announced there, hopefully by early next year, I believe, is when it's supposed to be announced. But yeah, I wouldn't hold my breath. Teresa says, I think the majority of younger people will be happy with lower THC, especially if they're noobs. Yeah, that's possibly true as well. And to be fair, like, you know, like, don't be knocking the lower strength stuff either. Like 10% THC or is still like pretty good flower. That's pretty good flower, like, you know. Even 5% flower. I've had some pretty good 5% strains there. I've had one CBD that was one CBD strain that was 5% THC, 5% CBD. According to the label, was never tested, so I can't confirm nor deny the actual THC potency or CBD potency. But it was said to be 1-to-1, 5%, and I was quite happy with it, to be fair. Like, it was a very nice daytime consumption. Even time, you'd certainly want a little bit of a more heavy, but during the daytime, it was really nice, really mellow. Chieftain says Ireland could set it up supplemented greenhouses and black out the light. 3 to 4 runs a season. We could feed our own market, jobs made too. Even byproducts are valuable. Like, I think the byproducts are probably even more valuable, to be fair, Chief, than like there's huge byproducts off of the or huge value in the byproducts off cannabis, because a byproduct of the cannabis plant is hemp, like the fiber of the plant. That's a hugely valuable byproduct. And yeah, as you say, like a number of seasons in a year, we certainly could be delivering on that there. We could be delivering all of these sustainable products too, because you know, the carbon that could be captured from the hemp fiber, there's incredible uses for that. Like they're talking about making is it graphene or something like that. That's like a highly conductible material that's they can make that from the hemp fiber, from the carbon from the hemp fiber. And again, we're always been talking about needing these alternative solutions to things like fossil fuels again. And it's there in cannabis and the hemp seed. I could go on, yeah, you know, we could go on all day. Definitely huge value. John Phantom says, you know, Halloween started in Ireland before the Christians made a holiday. Yeah, no, that was it. It was it was a pagan tradition, was it not? But yeah, whoop whoop, my home grow was 3%. Ryan Hogan says THC percentage is a crap measure of cannabis quality or effect. There you go, Ryman. You're hitting the nail on the head there now, because it is. It's a very crap measure of it. What they actually found in America was in different competitions that THC percentage actually did very little to sway the choice of consumers. So when they done tests with consumers, gave them blind tests of cannabis, that it was THC was not often the driver of the number one choice of that consumer. Now, initially when the markets opened over in America, THC very much was a driver of choice for consumers. But as the market matured, as people got to know cannabis, got to understand the different strains, the different offerings, effects from the cannabis, THC percentage kind of wasn't very much a driver. It was terpenes, it was effects, it was, you know, it was all of that. But THC percentage, it's not really up there for the consumers once the market matures. Liv Max says, I'm waiting for the professional specialist to put it through. I'm too nice to push. I have no privacy. I'm pro-cannabis for people with illness that helps it rather than the opioids that don't work. Sorry, I seem to have taken over. Just sick of being left in my bed forgotten about because I can't afford to buy the medication I need. Honestly, you're helping so many people. I don't feel alone, and that makes all the difference. Well, thanks very much for sharing that with me, Liv. And again, you know, push the consultant. Write an open letter there, but you shouldn't be suffering in silence. They don't see it that you're not being nice by not pushing, and you need to be nice to yourself, I think, Liv. Because I think by not pushing, you're not really being nice. I think you're being not nice to yourself. So definitely push a little bit more. If the opioids don't work, and I know for many people they don't work, and I know for many people they certainly don't enjoy the side effects to them. And again, the likes of Alicia Marr, prime example, multiple pills, black and white existence, mundane existence, you know, that like you're sort of stuck in bed feeling forgotten about, feeling like she was dragging everybody else down around her. Next comes along a friend, tries cannabis, different day and night, happy, smiling again, laughing, living, enjoying life. Pain melted away, not completely gone, but melting away, reduced to a tolerable level. So a lot to be said about access to cannabis. So be nice to yourself, push, you know, insist. And if I can do any more to help, certainly my door is always open. Find me through Facebook or my email, and you know, just hit Liv Mac there in the reference, and I'll remember the name anyway. I know you're not alone. There's many people out there as well like you who don't know about Martin's World, who don't know about the hot box, who are suffering in silence, and who, you know, like that will sadly feel alone, and they are alone in that situation. So just unfortunate. So hopefully someday we can get them out of it. Cannabis seeds can replace petroleum. It can certainly offer an alternative there anyway, and in time possibly act as a replacement. You're very welcome, Liv. You're very welcome. Who's this? Whoop whoop whoop. Only I grew a purple, so sweet, man. Oh, nice. Yeah, those purples, all right. They're really nice strains. But you know what? Those purples, you get the what's in there? It's called anthocyanins. And we were only talking about this the other day. That if when you harvest that plant, and if you let it dry only for a day or two, and if you press it for some rosin, you can get nice purple rosin. You can collect some of that purple out of it and put it into the extract. So there you go, guys. That was something I learned the other day. I didn't realize that that's something that can actually be done. So it's about 24 to 36 hours of drying, and then do your press, and you should end up with some purple extract, purple rosin, purple dabs. If anything, it just looks cool. John just looks different. I don't know, is it going to be like magic or anything like that? But what it is it's a presence of the anthocyanins, which give it that kind of a blue-purple color. So here you go. A little bit of knowledge from me to you. Right, let's get back to the news then, guys, as we've got a couple of headlines there to go through. So while Germany are legalizing cannabis and paving the way within Europe, back here in Ireland, it's a much different picture. In this story, and I don't know if you can see this, let's see if we can zoom in a little bit more. Boom. A man jailed for 3.5 years for selling cannabis in Drogheda and Navan. So this is a case above in Drogheda involving a 53-year-old man. I'm not going to name the man here, but you can obviously probably read his name off of the screen. But it says a man who was growing cannabis and selling it in Drogheda and Navan has been jailed for 3.5 years at the Trim Circuit Court. This man pleaded guilty to cultivating cannabis and having the drug for the purpose of sale and supply at Dean Hill, Haystown and Navan on October 23rd, 2022. The court heard that when Gardaí entered the bungalow where the 53-year-old defendant was living at the time, they were met with a strong smell of cannabis coming from the attic and the defendant with the garden shears in his hand. All right, that's an interesting scene. All right, I don't know, are they trying to say that he was maybe there threatening them with the garden shears, like? But like, to be fair, like, guys, anybody out there growing cannabis, like, have any of you used the garden shears, like, you know, that big fucking hedge trimmer type things, like? I've used little trimmers, like, you know, but that's not really a garden shears. They're pruning scissors. They'd be more as pruning scissors, not a garden shears. So I don't know why they're kind of putting that there. But anyway, he had a garden shears and he said maybe he's doing just a bit of outside gardening at work. The court was told that the cannabis grown was housed in the foil-lined attic, which was divided into 3 sections, one for each stage of the operation. You had 3 sections up there, one for each stage. What do you mean? Seedling, vegetative, flowering? 3 stages, seedling, vegetative, flowering, maybe. A total of 143 plants, which ranged from the nursery stage to fully grown and had a potential value of 142,000. But again, it's hard to think about how many plants he actually had in flower up there. I'm just thinking it's an attic. It's a bungalow, an attic in a bungalow. Might be bigger than regular attics, but still it's not huge. So 143 plants. For him to have 143 plants up there, I'd imagine what he probably had might have been a mother plant, some propagators, maybe some vegetative plants that were after being graduated from the propagators, and possibly a flowering room containing 6 to 12 flowering plants. I'm just thinking realistically, that's probably what you'd comfortably fit within an attic, you know, 6 to 12 flowering plants. Maybe at a push, like he might have had 24 flowering. But, you know, I think a large part of that 143 plants would have been plants possibly in like propagators or something like that, you know. Probably didn't even have roots going on them. But he also had dried cannabis with a street value of almost 29,000. And it was found, and he admitted that €9,000 in cash found in his bedroom was the proceeds of selling the drug. And that's unfortunate. You know, he admitted to it, but I suppose in his defense, he's just cooperating with the cops. He's just being honest. He probably didn't see anything wrong with what he was doing. Just like, look, you caught me, guys. I'm not doing anything wrong here. Yeah, that's money I made from selling weed. I'm kind of proud of that. I've made a nice old business here for myself. And you know, if I was in Germany, I would be a businessman. Not yet, but in time to come, he would be. Like, it's mad to think 3.5 years this man is getting for this, and like over in Germany, they're probably handing out sentences like this for people growing cannabis as well and selling it over there. But what are they going to do now? And the law changes, and like, I didn't see anything in Germany's announcement, actually, now that I think about it, about prisoners for cannabis. Like, are they going to release all their prisoners? I didn't see anything about that, and I don't see anybody asking that question, or at least hasn't come across my research there recently. But yeah, the prisoners, the people have been criminalized, and those with criminal records, there hasn't been any real conversation from what I've seen anyway. It's all been about like taxation and access and sale and all that stuff, but Nothing about those who've been wronged, much like this individual here. Many people will say, you can't defend this fella, he's a drug dealer, he's selling weed, or whatever you might think about the person. But again, you know, he's providing a service for our community. You know, he's providing cannabis to many people out there. So I am going to defend this person. Is he profiting off it? Yeah, he is. He's got 9 fucking grand there. Happy days for him. Fair play to him. As long as it's good cannabis, he wasn't spraying it with shit, and he wasn't selling it to minors, and he wasn't, you know, breaking kneecaps in order to get money and all of that stuff. Fair play to him. Fair play to him. I don't think this person should be punished for this, and he certainly shouldn't be spending 3.5 years of his life locked away behind bars. This person might be a really good grower of cannabis. He might have actually had a couple of strains up there that he could have been developing himself. You know, he might have been at that protest there not too long ago. He might have got some of that Bubba's wrecked hole, and he might have been crossing it with some of his own stuff. Who knows, you know? There could be genetics there that he could have been breeding for the last couple of years, and that could be lost now. All gone. You know, really good, high quality, Irish produced cannabis. All gone now. But anyway, it says there, the defendant told Gardaí he bought a grow house equipment in Dublin for €10,000. Must have been some equipment he got for 10 grand, in fairness. Like, I know, like, alright, a lamp, lights and stuff. Like, man, like, 2 grand and you got yourself a Rolls Royce of a grow room. Like, 10 grand, what's this fella buying? Like, maybe he's just got a load of LEDs. I suppose, yeah, that those fucking micro array 8s, that they're like €600 a go. Still, like, yeah, he couldn't have that big of a fucking attic. 10 grand. Maybe he converted the attic as well. He says he taught himself to grow cannabis by watching YouTube before beginning to sell drug and Drogheda and Navan in June 2019. So he's been up there doing it for the last couple of years. He got caught. When did he get caught again? Did it say he got caught on 23rd of October, October 23rd, 2022? Or was that when he got pleaded guilty? Yeah, I think that's when he got caught. I don't see any other date up there, so we'll just go with that. But yeah, in 3 years, he managed to squirrel away 9 grand. He managed to cover off legal bills, it says here. He says here the court heard he was a cannabis user and set up the operation to make more family time. Hey, come on, he's a family man as well. He wanted to have more time there with the family and to pay outstanding legal bills. Judge Orla Crowe noted that the defendant had been caught red-handed but had been assessed by the probation service at being low risk of reoffending. The judge stressed the serious nature of the offence and imposed a concurrent sentence of 3.5 years on each of the 2 charges. 3.5 years, guys. Just think about that for a second, all right? 3.5 years, 80 grand a year per prisoner in Ireland. That's what it's costing. 80 grand a year per prisoner. 80 grand. You know, that's crazy. And we're going to lock this fella up. We're into a cost of living crisis, you know, a time when money needs to be used for actually helping people out there instead of helping people. You know, they think they're helping this fella by locking him up. They think they're helping the community by locking him up. But who are they actually helping? Like, how many people was he selling cannabis to? And now they have nowhere to get cannabis. And now those people are vulnerable at risk because they might have to go out and search and they'll try to buy on Instagram. Only talking about somebody there the other day who got ripped off on Instagram. They tried to buy off a vendor on there, and I think they lost €600. Quite a sum of money to lose out. And I think they were trying to buy 2 ounces or something off somebody, and they got ripped F off. Unfortunate, you know, but that's the reality. Only because of prohibition for cannabis consumers. Live Max is all fun and games till he gets Steele's electricity bill. Well, there was nothing there either about the electricity being bypassed, so that's a good thing in that case, because there is many cases out there, and there's one we're going to jump to there now in a second over in the UK. Another problem created by prohibition. But yeah, who else is out there? JW says, Stony Martin, how you keeping, bro? Hope everyone out there is having a great day and blazing something nice. Yeah, we're blazing some serious black over here anyway, and it's fairly nice, to be fair. Almost that time as well, guys. Oh, boom, we just hit it. It's 4:20. Gotta grind up more weed. First world problems, huh? Little bit of serious black there. Oh, seriously nice. Chibi. Look, a serious black. Yes, 420 has come and gone. So let's jump on over to the next headline while I grind up this nugget here. So the police over in the UK, and this is coming off the back of what Liv kind of talks about there a second ago, you know, is that at least the the electricity. So, and I was saying at least they weren't ripping off the electricity. But in this case, I believe they were. And what they were doing was posing a serious fire risk. And it is. I've talked about this several times in the past. I said it to people, like, you know, if you're going to be growing cannabis, guys, just pay for your electricity. Pay for it, like, you know, don't be trying to bypass it unless you know what you're doing, like. But even then, there's a high risk, you know, that you could be causing a serious fire, like, because when you bypass the electricity box, I believe you are bypassing some of the safety mechanisms. Again, I know nothing about electricity, so I'm speaking completely out my arse here, like, but I do believe that it does create a more dangerous situation. So don't do it. Pay for electricity. Just, you know, if you're only growing for yourself, like, it should be sufficient. It's probably not going to cost you. Still, even with the increased costs, probably not going to cost you like more than €300 every 2 months on top of your normal electricity, like, every 2 months. And if you're growing good every 3 months, you should be getting at least, you know, 12 ounces, let's say. That's well worth it. So the police find cannabis farm which posed a serious fire risk over in the UK. This is a story that's coming out of in Newton. So over in Newton, rooms full of cannabis were found when the police stormed the house. You know, they stormed it, and there was probably nobody there when they stormed it then as well. Let's see, because that's normally the case over here in Ireland anyway. You know, they find a grow house, but no arrests were made. There was nobody at the property. I'd imagine a lot of the time those cases where they make a raid on a house and there was nobody at the property, they were probably tipped off. You know, there was probably a bit of corruption going on there within the force. Cops letting them know, come here, boys, we're doing a raid there and your grow there next week. So get everything out of there. You know, anything to identify you anyway. But they go on anyway here to say that members of the Newton Safer Neighbourhood team found what they described as a large cannabis grow at a property in Copsewood Avenue. Officers went into the building, seized all of the plants as well as the equipment used to grow it. They also found the electricity meter had been bypassed, the main electric cable, with no regard for safety. So there we go. That's pretty much what I was talking about there. They bypassed the main electricity box, so they connect straight up to the main cable. And that poses a serious fire risk, as the headline states. And that's quite often how cannabis grows were found in the past. There would be a fire at a property, they go in there and they find a load of cannabis plants, and yeah, they find then afterwards the electricity was bypassed. And a lot of the time people were actually bypassing the electricity because they were just afraid of being caught, not because they didn't want to pay the electricity. They were just afraid of being caught. And as I said there a few minutes ago, you know, you pay the extra 300 quid there every 2 months to run your say 600 watt, let's say up to 1000 watt of power running a day. You know, that is a big bump up when your neighbors are paying 300 less than you. That's a fare there for many people out there, and that does cause people to bypass the electricity, but just don't do it. You know, if the cops come as a result of the bump up in electricity, I think it's highly unlikely that actually really happens. I think it's more likely if you don't pay your bills, they might come knocking. But in my experience anyway, anytime I've ever done a grow, I've always kind of had that little extra electricity cost and my neighbours, and never caused me an issue. And as I said, you know, that extra €300 kind of using what I would have been using at the time when I was growing, which would have been a 600 watt, a 250 watt, plus the fans and all of that stuff. You know, I had sometimes actually had two 600 watts and a 250 watt. Had a double flower room going at some stages, get a perpetual grow going. But again, you know, at most there was only ever 8 plants flowering. And then, you know, sometimes I'd have hundreds of plants and veg. I would never say hundreds, but at one stage I actually had well over 100 plants there just for the crack. Threw a picture of it there up into the hot box, and I was like, if there's any cops in this hot box, now's the time to come raid me. They never came. But anyway, the officers who went into the building seized all of the plants as well as the equipment. They noted the bypass of the electricity. The result is an electrically unsafe property that is potentially a fire risk, the team said. As a result of Newton's S&T's discovery, the electricity is now being isolated to the property. A large quantity of cannabis was seized, and it says, please remember, it is incredibly important that all suspicious activities are reported to 101 or to the Warwick Police website. But where do you report fucking stupid policies that create situations like this where you have criminals going in, you know, bypassing electricity, growing a large amount of cannabis in order to maximize their profits? You know, where do we report that? Our politicians are ignoring us. You know, the public is largely on our side, but we have no avenue, you know, anywhere to go. There's nowhere to get recourse on this, and it's just wrong that that's the situation. I myself, I'm going to be in going to court now next week, so we might jump onto that then. I suppose Wednesday, I'm back in court on Wednesday, the 2nd of November. So Wednesday, the 2nd of November, I'm going to be back in court in Cork, down in Middleton. So this is going to be the 2nd day of this case, and fingers crossed, hopefully, you know, all going well, I'll have some company there with me. I'll say nothing on that yet, as the person who reached out said that they're going to make an effort to get down there to the case. But just in case they can't make it, I'm just not going to really say who it is, because I don't really want to out them like that. Fingers crossed, any of that person does show up, because it'll be much more supportive to my case if that person wants to show up. But 2nd of November, I'm back up in the Middleton District Court for the joint I sent out last year as part of the National Legalised Cannabis Day campaign on the 5th of November. So here's the letter for that that was sent out there last year. So last year, myself and a number of other activists around the country, we rolled up as many cannabis joints as we could roll. I believe there was almost 200 letters, over 200 letters actually were sent out in the end. So that's over 200 cannabis joints that were rolled up and sent out. Many of the cannabis joints actually were CBD, as can be seen here. We had a support of Relief, a CBD specialist last year, who kindly donated a number of pre-rolled cannabis spliffs to the cause, which were sent out in the post in letters to politicians. Again, these were high CBD, low THC cannabis spliffs that were sent out. But I myself, I rolled up a number that contained some leaf that was donated by a kind grower. And that was sent out in the post. Also included in the number of letters sent out were jellies. I just included the regular jellies that were bought down in deals, the squishies, if you know what they are. They're like refresher type sweets, little pink and blue type yolks. I included one just for the crack, because I knew many of them would be sent to be tested if they were to go to the guards. And funny enough, I only got one back, and that's what I'm in court for now on Wednesday for the 2nd day of the case. So the letter reads as follows, all right? The recipient of this letter, November 5th, was christened National Legalised Cannabis Day by now MEP Luke Ming Flanagan in 2001. The aim of the campaign back then was to highlight the need to end cannabis prohibition and the benefits that legalising this plant would bring. Now, on the 20th anniversary of this action, campaigners have yet again engaged in this campaign as civil disobedience in the hope that the government would end this inhumane prohibition of a plant which, when used correctly, can be incredibly beneficial. Cannabis needs to be descheduled from its Schedule 1 status, as the medical qualities of this plant and the compounds within are undeniable. Scientific evidence supporting the therapeutic uses of this plant continue to grow by the day, while at the same time the number of people being criminalised for the use of this plant in Ireland continues to grow in unison. Holly, 54, Evelyn Corrigan, 68, Christina Pisco, 63, were all criminalised by the Irish courts for their medical use of the cannabis plant. Alicia Maher has had to leave her home in Cork and moved to Spain to access this plant to treat her chronic pain. Veritumia to fight tooth and nail to get access. To get the access she has for her daughter Ava, who might not be here with us today if it wasn't for the medicine made from this plant. As part of this campaign, we have attached a list of 10 As part of this campaign, we have attached a list of 10 reasons why cannabis prohibition should be ended, and also, most importantly, a cannabis joint. As you are now in possession of this cannabis joint, you should contact the Gardaí to come and remove it, or feel free to consume it if you wish. It says, disclaimer, be advised, as this product was sourced from an unregulated market, you are a consumer, you as a consumer have a very little protection. There is no guarantee that this joint contains any cannabis. If it does contain cannabis, you as a consumer have no idea as to the potency of the cannabis. This makes dosing incredibly difficult and could put you at risk. If you would like to enjoy cannabis safely, then you will need to source your cannabis from a legal, regulated market, which helps to protect consumers. And then I give 10 reasons why cannabis prohibition needs to be ended. The criminalisation of a person for using cannabis violates the person's human rights. And I list the human rights. I said Article 2. Everyone is entitled to all the rights and freedoms set forth in this declaration without distinction of any kind, such as race, colour, sex, language, religion, political, or other opinion. Other opinion. So there you go. Other opinion. My right to consume cannabis. That's another opinion, is it not? National or social origin, property, birth, or other status. Furthermore, no distinction shall be made on the basis of the political, jurisdictional, or international status, or the country or territory to which the person belongs, whether it be independent, trust, non-self-governing, or under any other limitation of sovereignty. Article 3. Everyone has the right to life, liberty, and security of person, except patients who need cannabis. Because patients who need cannabis, they're not given no right to life. Many patients without cannabis, much like yourself out there, Liv, you don't feel like you're given a right to life right now because you're being denied access to a cannabis plant, and that cannabis plant has compounds within it which could be therapeutically beneficial for you, where you don't feel like you're going to be stuck in bed for the day, where you are going to be able to get up and get out there and enjoy life. Life being the key word there. Being stuck in bed, all day, suffering, feeling alone, feeling forgotten about. Fortunately, that's not really living. That's not what life should be. And everyone should be entitled to the right to live a full life, provided with the health or the medicine that they needed. Liberty and security of person also come under that one, because you have very little security of person as a cannabis consumer in this country. Currently, your door could be taken off the hinges at any moment. Your cannabis could be taken away and you could be thrown into a cell. There's nothing secure about that at all. Article 5. No one shall be subjected to torture or cruel, inhumane, or degrading treatment or punishment. But yeah, us as cannabis consumers, we're subjected to this all the fucking time. We look at it in the media, they talk about us in all sorts of derogatory ways. Even when we go try to get jobs, you get drug tested, and if you test positive for cannabis, you won't get that job. But meanwhile, and I think this is a good segue over to a news piece that I have for you there, is this one coming out of Ireland. And we'll get back to the rights in a couple of seconds, but this one coming out of Ireland. An alcoholic supervalue manager who was sacked after he drank himself unconscious on a premises was awarded 40 grand. And he was awarded 40 grand because it was unfair dismissal for firing him for being drunk at work because he was an alcoholic. The employer didn't take into consideration the man being an alcoholic, and they shouldn't have fired him. They should have given him another chance. The man brought a load of vodka to work and drank himself unconscious at a time when the owner of the store was away at a family wedding, and left and trusted this person to be in charge of the store, as the person was had some authority. I believe that the person was the store manager or something like that. Anyway, he was high up within the store. Anyway, he wasn't just an average worker in there. But oh yes, he was a manager, as it says in the fucking headline. And they found in his favour. But yeah, meanwhile, if SuperValu can have a policy in place where they can drug test you when you go in for the job, and they can say, no, you tested positive for cannabis, so we don't have to hire you, that's totally fine. That's discrimination. Like that's wrong. The courts found in this guy's favour. They awarded him 40 grand. That's mad. Absolutely crazy. But meanwhile, me or you, we be subject to all sorts of crazy treatment there if we went to get a job as cannabis consumers. Crazy, like, isn't it? Here we go on. Article 12. No one shall be subjected to arbitrary interference with his privacy, family, home, or correspondence, nor to attacks upon his honour and reputation. Everyone has the right to protection of the law against such interference or attacks. Again, I don't feel like I'm getting that protection at all. I feel like I'm getting attacked every day. Every day I feel like I have to get up and defend myself as a cannabis consumer. That's just not right. My privacy has been invaded umpteen times. I wouldn't have been found with cannabis if my privacy wasn't invaded. There was no righteous reason for those cops to be stopping and searching me those times they did, outside of their own desire to find some cannabis and bring some fella to court for it because I fit the description of somebody who might have some cannabis. It's just wrong. So those are the articles of our human rights that I believe are being violated by the prohibition of cannabis. Others can make arguments for other articles, but those are the ones that I picked out and I make arguments for. Number 2, second reason, ending cannabis prohibition allows for minors to be protected with the introduction of age limits at the point of purchase. 3, ending cannabis prohibition allows for the introduction of regulations such as quality control, product information such as potency, and packaging which enables harm reduction. Ending cannabis prohibition will open up access to cannabis for patients and researchers. Ending cannabis prohibition would end the discrimination and stigmatization that cannabis consumers currently face in society. Ending cannabis prohibition will save the state hundreds of millions annually, which would have otherwise been wasted on the enforcement of cannabis prohibition. Ending cannabis prohibition would allow for the creation of thousands of much-needed jobs. Ending cannabis prohibition would allow for the generation of a multi-billion euro industry which could have a number of solutions to today's climate and environmental pollution problems. Ending cannabis prohibition would stop the criminalization of people who use cannabis for medical reasons. Ending cannabis prohibition would allow for Gardaí to focus more on serious crimes such as those with actual victims. And as I learned recently, the Gardaí don't always just do crime, they do welfare cases too. I was down in the Middleton court when I was being charged for the case I mentioned earlier that I'm going to be up on the 2nd of November for. And there was a welfare call came in for a local man, a man in his 70s, for the guards to go out and check his property to make sure that he was okay. There was a neighbour concerned, hadn't seen him in a couple of days and just was concerned, so rang the guards. And I was sat there occupying the time of 2 guards in the station. And I said it to him, I goes, I bet you'd love to be getting into the car, going out there now and seeing if your man is alright. I bet you this kind of what you took the job for, isn't it? And he goes, yeah. 4 guards in the station said it to me that they all thought that cannabis should be legalised. Like they think that the criminalisation of people for cannabis is wrong. So again, it's not just to allow for Gardaí to focus on more serious crimes, but also to focus on areas of work that truly help those within the community, such as welfare calls. I'm going to edit that at some stage and include it as we're on this, and we're nearing November 5th again. Here we go. National Legalized Cannabis Day, November 5th, 2022. So pretty much word for word, same letter, except I've adjusted. It's now the 21st anniversary of Luke Ming Flanagan's initial action back in 2001. So it'll be the 21st anniversary of that campaign, and I'm going to do it again this year. I don't know, do I have enough product there to send out all of those joints, but again, I'll be getting in touch with the different stores out there who support the cause, and we'll see what we can muster up, and hopefully we'll have a joint there for at least every politician, and we'll aim to get councillors and media personalities in there as well. But let's see what happens. So November 5th, guys. Remember November, the 5th of November. National Legalized Cannabis Day. And it's 2022. It's on a Saturday this year as well, guys. So people want to get involved, I'll put a copy of this letter up on Facebook. If you're not on Facebook, if you want me to email it to you as it's up on Google Drive, just drop me an email on Martin's World podcast@gmail.com. and I'll send you over a link to the Google Drive, and you'll be able to take a copy of it, print it off yourself, stick it into an envelope, roll up a doobie, And guys, you don't even have to roll up cannabis, guys. If people want to take part in this, and if you want to roll up some thyme, some oregano, and if you want to send them out in the post to the different personalities, go for it. Again, I sent them all out last year as part of the campaign. Only one came back to me, and that was the office of David Stanton in Middleton. Now, I'm not saying everybody go out there and get a letter and address it to David Stanton's constituency office. I'm not saying that at all, guys. Don't take me on that, okay? I'm not saying that, okay? But if you feel like doing that, that's totally on you. But I'm not saying do that. But yeah, his was the only one that came back. But if people want to take part in this anyway, guys, roll up whatever you want. It doesn't even have to be cannabis. It could be whatever you want it to be. Because as I said, I included jellies in it. And the reason why I included the jelly is because it's just going to be sent off to be tested. It's just using up their resources, just wasting their time, highlighting that by, you know, engaging in these actions. Some of it is illegal, some of it's just for fun. And guys, if you want to be a part of the one that's just for fun, go for it. Roll up some thyme, oregano. It's probably going to be easy for them to tell it's just thyme and oregano, but maybe it's not. Maybe they don't know. You know, they're freaking they're, what do they say? They're your wrist from your elbow. When it comes to herbs. So roll up whatever you want, stick it into an envelope with this letter. A stamp these days, I believe it costs like €1. So, or maybe it's a bit more. Is it like €1.50 to €1 even? I don't know what a stamp is now, actually. I bought them last year. I think I got like 200 of them for €200. So I think they're like $1.20 actually, if memory serves correct. Anyway, not does it matter. It's very little anyway. Want to take part? There it is. That's the letter. I'll send you a copy. Guys, I have to give shout outs there as well. Green Tea sent in a tip. Much appreciated, Green Tea. Earlier, I have to say thanks for how much. Yes. Much appreciated, Green Tea. And also to Ferg, an absolute hero, my man. Ferg is an incredible supporter of the show, as Ferg not only sends in a tip, but he's also, like, I can look after myself personally with a bong. I suppose in you too, is I believe that the last bong that I was hitting here on the show just wasn't as as catching as this. Is a beautiful bong. Shout out to Ferg. Absolute hero, man. And guys, don't forget to check out Cork Herbal Products. Cork Herbal Products has got some great CBD flower there on offer. Got oils as well as different CBD products there. So do check them out. And I do believe he's got some seeds over there as well. Souvenir seeds, guys. You're not supposed to be growing these things, guys. Don't be breaking the law unless it's part of a civil disobedience campaign. But don't be buying them off for, because he only sells souvenirs, okay? Keep those ones. If you're going to grow them as part of civil disobedience, grow some hemp ones. Unless it's a anonymous civil disobedience that you don't want to expose. And for your own consumption, then maybe the souvenirs ones are good. But I didn't say that. Or did I? Shit. Don't hit rewind. Lost loads of comments. Canaman, what's happening? Canaman 83 joining in, says evening folks. And Edzer Donegan says oregano and sage. There you go, but whatever you've got handy. Just roll her up, include it with this letter. And Edzer, I can send you a link to the letter there later. If you'd like me to personally come down and drop you the letter, if you don't have access to a printer, I have no bother doing that either. As I know you're a Cork person yourself. Anybody else out there in Cork as well? On November 5th, if you wanted to take part in this campaign, if you want me to print you off the letter, maybe I can do something around this. Maybe we can organise a public event. Maybe. Thinking cap is on now. Should have thought about this maybe a bit earlier. But if people do, let's see what there is. If there's interest out there, I might organise a public event and do something there. Full of Cork assemble. Liv Max says, I'm a youth worker. Well, I was before I got sick. I'll never work as a youth worker again because my Facebook feed is so pro-cannabis. I know. And you know what? It's many of the pro-cannabis social workers are probably the better ones. Unfortunately, we've had to meet some social workers recently as we've had issues with my own daughter, like running away and stuff like that. And like we've had talks, I suppose, and I don't want to be out in any of them or anything like that. But let's just say that they weren't against cannabis or anything like that. But they were silent supporters. But they were really good social workers, I have to say. Like, they were really open-minded. They were really good listeners. You know, they were really, I would just say, invested in the people that they were caring for, you know, providing the care for. So yeah, I hope you do get back into it someday, Liv. Liv says she'd be up for that. Yes. Cork person saw you, Liv. Are you willing to travel? It's not exclusively for Cork people, but I just don't want to be putting anybody out. I suppose we're going to be doing a public campaign. We'll see what we can do. Well, we drive on from there, guys, and we go to National Legalized Cannabis Day. Oh, the 5th of November. 5th of November is not over yet, guys, as we jump on over to another amazing cannabis activist from Ireland. And we go over here and we just go, there you go, there. Natalie O'Regan. Natalie O'Regan has been sharing around this to many of the cannabis campaigners within Ireland, that there's going to be a national day of online action for cannabis reform. So the Irish drug policy activists are planning an online day of action to highlight the pressing issue of cannabis reforming in Ireland. Graphics available at this link here to a Google Drive folder, and she shares with them underneath then as well. So as part of the day, they want people to highlight this. We aim to hold an online day of action to amplify the need for policy change. If you are a policymaker, advocacy group, public figure, advocate, patient, etc., we are hoping you will use your platform, big or small, to build a collective voice for change. We have highlighted several options below, and the options are as follows. Use the following hashtags: hashtag Cannabis Reform Ireland, hashtag What About Us, hashtag Decrim, and then also post an infographic template from this collection using the hashtags above. Write a tweet or post supporting reform, and we suggest I support hashtag Cannabis Reform Ireland because. Also, create a video reel TikTok explaining why you support reform. So guys, if you don't have access to time or joints, letters, envelopes and stamps and all of that stuff, but if you do have a smartphone, and if you do have an Instagram account, YouTube account, or any of that stuff, guys, you can all take part in this. Create a video of yourself explaining why you support cannabis reform in Ireland. Share it online using those hashtags that were mentioned: Cannabis Reform Ireland, What About Us, and Decrim. So use those hashtags and share your content online on the various platforms, and it'll coalesce all into the one loud voice, make a trend across the different platforms on the day, and hopefully gather some momentum there within the policymakers, especially within Ireland, to do something about this. Who knows where this goes? Fingers crossed. It's good that something's been done about this. It is good. It's good to see people doing this online. Why I support cannabis reform in Ireland, and you can insert your reasons there. Have different colors, different styles. So it's nice. And I don't mean to be condescending or anything. It's good. But I suppose for me, I'm just incredibly impatient. I'm just beyond fucking online campaigns and stuff. And I say that it's kind of ironic me saying that, and I have an online podcast and I'm kind of getting out there. But it's just just one day pushing for this. I don't know. Yeah, I think it's good. Look, it is. It's a coordinated day of action, and hopefully it'll get it trending. Trends do capture the attention of journalists, and again, anything that gets the story talking about it's good. It's good, and I hope that we can continue to do this, and I hope something comes of it, and it gets more people involved. I do think it's good. I think it's an easy way for people to get involved as well. Getting people to roll up joints and them out in the post is very difficult. Get people to show up at cannabis consumption protests, it's very difficult. This is an easy way for people to take part. So if people want to take part in this, guys, I highly recommend people take part in this. I'll be taking part in this. I'll be sharing those hashtags, as I always have been, on the various platforms across the day, as I roll up joints, as I put them into envelopes and post them off to the different politicians. I'll be sharing those with those hashtags, and I'll be including reasons why I support cannabis reform in Ireland on top of the 10 reasons why I give for why cannabis prohibition should be ended. But Natalie O'Regan, fair play, excellent stuff, and I really hope this achieves what's been aimed for, which is to get the hashtags trending on the day, and again capture the attention of the media. And I suppose as we're on the topic of Natalie O'Regan, let's just swing on over there. I believe it's up on her page here. Natalie O'Regan, Professor Carl Hart, Gino Kenny, and I believe George Rowe are all speaking together at an event coming up, Marxist 2022. Here it is. Boom. I'll throw up the link here to it. It's over on Eventbrite anyway, is where you can get a ticket to this. It's 12 to 20 euro to get a ticket. So if you can afford to be getting to Dublin and to be buying a ticket for this, there you go. There's the link. It's on Eventbrite. It's 2022 Marxism, calling time on capitalism. And as part of that, there's going to be a talk on why drug policy has failed. So the speakers include Ava Smith, a lifelong activist who's campaigning for LGBTQ plus liberation, has earned her a Lifetime Award in 2015. Ava was involved in the women's liberation movement in the 1970s. More recently was the co-chair of Together for Yes and a campaign against church ownership of women's healthcare. We have Dr. Carl Hart, who obviously needs no introduction, but we'll read his little excerpt there. Carl Hart is a psychologist, neuroscientist, and world-renowned drug reform activist. Carl's work include drug use for grown-ups, chasing liberty in the land of fair and high price, challenging everything you know about drugs and society. Carl is a vocal critic of the US war on drugs. Harsha Walia is the award-winning author of Undoing Border Imperialism and Border and Rule Global Migration, Capitalism and the Rise in Racist Nationalism. Trained in law and is a community organizer and campaigner in the migrant justice, anti-capitalism, feminist and anti-imperialist movements, including No One Is Illegal and Women's Memorial March Committee. Eamon McCann, key figure in the 1968 civil rights movement, member of the Derry Trades Council and a renowned journalist and author. Eamon McCann has been a firm opponent of injustice and is known around the world for his unwavering commitment to his anti-sectarian and socialist principles. Una Mullally is an Irish journalist, columnist with the Irish Times. Una's reporting. Okay, all of these people aren't speaking at the drugs one. Never mind. I shouldn't have read out all of those people. Apologies. Dr. Carl Hart is going to be speaking with Gino Kenny, Garrett McGovern, and Natalie O'Regan. So apologies, it's not George Rowe. It's actually Garrett McGovern is going to be speaking at that. That's at 5:30 to 6:45 in the Fitzgerald Chamber, UCD, I believe. There you go, guys. If you're out there, if you're able to travel to that one, you got 12 to 20 euro for the ticket. Boom. Loads of other events there on the day as well, but that's the one important one to us. Why the war on drugs has failed. Gordon O'Keefe says, I have to split great conversations. Always keep up the good work. Peace out, Gordon, man. Catch you later. Me old flower, what's happening, me old flower? So Smiley's Garden, good afternoon, champ. Me old flower, is your hair? I'd nearly. It was yourself who gave me that. It's Fire, wasn't it? That was the name of the strain. That was really nice. But it was also yourself who sent me on to Eagle Gardens. And I have to thank you for that. I really enjoyed that conversation. It was a long one. It was like 4.5 hours or something we went for. It was I started at 4 a.m. here or something and finished up at like 9 or 9:30 because we waited around till 9:20. It was his 4:20. Good conversation. Check it out, guys. Talking shit with Eagle. Eagle Gardens over on Instagram was his Instagram handle, but Talking Shit with Eagle I think was the YouTube, or maybe it's Eagle Gardens as YouTube as well. But it was a good conversation anyway. Really enjoyed it. I don't know, just pulling up something on my screen. Probably pop up a bong as well, to be fair. I see Temple Growers out there in the hot box. Nice, happy days. I just had to swing on over there into the studio thing because I lost everybody's chat on the Streamlabs. Streamlabs seems to have lost all the YouTube chats. I have all the Facebook ones up there. But to swing over to YouTube to see what's happening. Daily Talker's asking, when did common sense become not so common? Did you not know, man? Do you know, common sense is, it's not that common. It's a very common saying. At least I've heard it a lot anyway. And B. Sanchez says common sense is so passe. John Finnegan says great chat in Eagle Gardens. Nice one to me old Flower for setting it up. Yes, big one, big nice one. Right, I'm going to quickly blaze up a bong and then I'm going to quickly grab water just on the other side of this room. Keep the hotbox chats coming in anyway, guys. Just read them back over them. Shout outs to anybody out there. Tommy boy, what's happening, Tommy? Martin Ware, what's happening? Says Danka from Scotland. I'm going to take out my headphones before I walk away, otherwise you're going to see me flying back with my head. Apologies. Gotta keep hydrated. Oh, especially after a big long rip. Ooh. Nice. Pip Jam, what's happening? Pip Jam, I see you in the Eagle chat, Eagle Gardens chat there earlier as well. Nice to see that we're sharing audience members. Happy days. Love to see that. I love that when you're just randomly over in another YouTube channel and start seeing some familiar names. So right, let's get on back into it, will we? We go to Kentucky then. Let's go over to the US of A. We're over in Kentucky. There's going to be an introduction of a bill in Kentucky that's going to see the allocation of $2 million for research specifically into cannabis. So happy days. I believe it's going to be the public colleges there over in Kentucky are going to benefit from this. But this is so far removed from the world I existed in when I was in college, when it was like, oh hell no, you're doing research in cannabis. Like, you know, that there was some people were lucky enough they were able to do. One person was doing a study using CBD oil for cancer cells. But for me, I kind of wanted to do a little bit more, I suppose, and there was like no way you're getting access to cannabis THC or anything like that. No way, Jose. But meanwhile, over in Kentucky, they're kind of like, oh, yeah, no, here's $2 million specifically just for cannabis research. So hopefully now there's going to be many researchers over there going to benefit off the back of this. So there's going to be funding there to do different bits of research. And more importantly, this is going to be hopefully research that's going to be done that's going to be free from any bias. It's just going to be purely for the scientific exploration to answer a question, not to prove a point. You know, hopefully it's somebody who's just purely just got a scientific mind and like, oh, does cannabis help X, Y, Z condition? You know, whatever it is, insert whatever condition it is, and they do completely unbiased research. That's all I want to see. I just want to see unbiased research, and I hope this allows for that, facilitates for that. Hopefully the states, you know, they're not going to be biased in the who they give the funding to. Only time will tell. For many years, it's been largely awarded to research that's been done to demonize cannabis use. You know, research that's been done to find harmful uses associated with cannabis. But no, this is going to be different. So this is over there on the boingboingwhat.net, written by Elias Villarora. But the university press release from September 2021-2022 specified September 21, 2022 specified based within the UK College of Medicine Centre of Drugs and Alcohol. The centre will build on cannabis research already taking place at UK and expand the profile of clinical cannabis research. As critiques highlighting the emergence of monopolies making Cannabis Inc. Circulate, states across the US continue to legalise medical and recreational cannabis, but not all the white stars and the flag agree about legalisation in any form. In Kentucky, House Bill 136 intend to legalise medical cannabis, ordered out before reaching committee, but with White House Bill 604, the legislators interested in having us explore the conditions for us. I think this was initially in Spanish and it's converted over. It's not reading very well, is it? But anyway, within this bill, there's going to be $2 million given to research. Happy fucking days. Apologies on that. I probably should have read that article more extensively. But Dr. Bolognius is an expert on the topic of medical cannabinoids. Since 2018, Dr. Bolognius has received 2 NIH grants, including a 2-year R21 to explore the effects of various cannabis strains on stimulating driving performance, and a 4-year R1 to examine the interaction effects of cannabis and opioids and safety, psychological and abuse-related outcomes. That's a little bit within the article. Again, apologies. Headline hunting. I seen 2 million and I wanted to contrast it to this headline, which is it's largely different. You know, you're over in one place, they're awarding 2 million into the research of cannabis, although, you know, it's different forms of research there, but hopefully, again, as I say, it's going to be unbiased. But over here, I've spent thousands of medical cannabis and it's changed my life. And this is a story of Victoria Paris, and she spends £580 a month on medical cannabis to relieve chronic pain after having her leg amputated. So here we have a patient again, you know, much like yourself out there, Liv, who knows she can't afford it. Like this is why she's out here on the media, is she can't afford this. She can't continue to afford to have to fork out £580 a month in order to get access to her medical cannabis. So I'll play this little video here from ITV.
It could be the difference between getting my prosthetic leg on or not. If with a lot of pain, I cannot force my leg into its joint. It can swell with too much pain. And it's the difference between me putting my leg on and having a normal everyday life, being a mum, being a partner, looking after the house and my family and my dogs, and being in a wheelchair. For a lot of people, just to have the legality for it, yes, to be able to be told, yes, you are allowed this. It is just a flower. It will help your pain or your anxiety, whatever it's for. It's a huge weight off people's minds to not worry that the police are going to turn up at your door or that something might happen when you go to buy it.
Yep, she met in fucking hell a lot of great points there, like in fairness to her. But again, you know, it's the prohibitionist arguments who make no sense. Anytime I've ever heard anybody arguing for ending of prohibition, it's always made sense. And you start listening to the prohibitionists like sort of Frank Svein, and he starts talking about a health-led approach to drugs, and you're just like what about the health-led approach includes patients having to fork out, you know, hundreds of pounds every month in order to get access to a plant. And the prohibition creates this hugely burdensome cost for the patients. So this woman says here, Victoria Paris was diagnosed with diabetes at a young age and had her lower legs amputated as a result of peripheral vascular disease, which left her with chronic pain. Basically what happens with diabetes is you kind of get sugar starts forming inside, and like veins and things start bursting or rupturing and starts causing all sorts of problems for patients, and leads to like gangrene and all nasty stuff if they don't amputate. It's very common that it starts in like the feet, the toes, the lower limbs, fingers as well, you know, hands and stuff like that kind of can fall prey to it as well, but more often than not it's the feet, and amputation is very common for people with diabetes who go down this road. But this woman, you know, is using cannabis, and as she says there, the cannabis use could be the difference between her being able to put on her leg or not. It says the 41-year-old previously bought the drug on the street until medical cannabis was legalised in the UK in 2008. She obtained a private prescription costing £580 a month. And again, as she said there, you know, it's she's paying that, you know, but it's the most important thing with that is the peace of mind that comes with it. is that people are saying, oh yeah, this is okay now, you're not a criminal anymore. Like, but you were a criminal all along, you're getting on the street, but it's doing the same thing. It makes no sense. But meanwhile, you know, private prescription, £580, there you go, you're not a criminal anymore. Crazy, it's mad. The Inverness mum told STV News, it changed my life. I had to make cutbacks to do so, but it's worth it. I cannot force my leg into its joint when it swells with too much pain, so it's can be the difference between putting on my prosthetic leg and having a normal everyday life. Being a mum, a partner, looking after my house, family and dogs, and being in a wheelchair. Again, you know what I mean? Like, quality of life there, and go back to those rights earlier on that I talked about. She has a right to life. All of those patients out there, live, you have a right to life. Like, all of us have a right to life. And we're being denied that currently because of the prohibition of cannabis. However, despite the availability of prescribed cannabis, it's estimated that around 170,000 people in Scotland are still buying the substance on the black market to manage health conditions. Much the same here in Ireland. I believe there's less than 100 people currently have legal access to cannabis. It could have surpassed 100 people since the last time I got an update on the figure. But the last update I got, I believe it was closer to 60 people have legal access to cannabis in Ireland out of a population of 4 million people. 250,000 of those people have chronic pain. Many of those have chronic pain which is not met, where the pain is, the needs to meet the pain is not met by their opiates. And many do want to use cannabis and benefit as a result of breaking a law. It says here that Victoria was prescribed high-dose opioids by her doctor for years, leaving her feeling spaced out, and found that cannabis helped her function better day to day. She said a private prescription allowed her to legally access different strains and strengths. It is cheaper to buy in the streets than a legal prescription, but you don't know what you're getting. Again, you know, what she's saying there earlier in that video is that she's basically paying for the peace of mind. It's the peace of mind that comes with it. This is legal now. I'm not breaking the law anymore. And, you know, I don't have also the issues that can arise on the streets because you don't know what you're getting half the time. And other issues can arise too. You know, other problems can present themselves. You know, you can get robbed, get ripped off. You know, the clinic discusses what's right for you and gives you what you need. It's a huge weight off people's mind not to worry about police turning up your door. But it would be beneficial if patients could grow their own due to the cost of living. Experts warn that the illegally sourced cannabis poses a risk to mental and physical health, and stress that there were no safeguards to ensure it was safe in human consumption. It's hilarious, like they say that it's not safe. It's no way to ensure it's safe for human consumption. It's mad. Meanwhile, you know, you just go up and buy a bottle of vodka, and it's like no talks about it being safe for human consumption. It's grand. You literally drink yourself to death. Like, could you you could smoke yourself to death by smoking enough cannabis in a room where you eliminate all the oxygen in the room, and you die from asphyxiation. Cannabis really kill you? You know? Can you really smoke yourself to death? Like, man, it's very difficult. You can certainly drink yourself to death, though. They said it also put people at risk of engaging in criminal activity, whereas prescribed medical cannabis is manufactured to pharmaceutical standards. Again, they're highlighting a flaw here of prohibition. You know, it's prohibition that's putting people at risk by making them engage in making what they engage in criminal activity. Dr. Simon Erridge, head of research and access at Sapphire Medical Clinic, said it is really important that we raise awareness that medical cannabis can be prescribed by specialist physicians in the UK. Medical cannabis in the UK must conform to regulated guidance, minimising the harm that individuals could be exposed to through accessing cannabis through an illicit market. It is important to caveat with the fact that medical cannabis is not a panacea. It's not a silver bullet and may not be the most appropriate treatment for everybody. That's, you know, it's like every other drug, is not. Like, there's not really cures for stuff out there, you know. It just alleviates symptoms until whatever it is that ails you, you know, either like sorts itself out or, you know, you die. You know. But at least it's fucking treating the symptoms of whatever it is that's ailing you, you know. It's giving you a better quality of life, you know. That's fucking really important to many people. But it says, but it's important that people should be made aware of their options, and if it is an appropriate treatment, you should be able to access it. Hell yeah, I should be able to access it. Oh, shouldn't be listening to your doctor saying, oh no, there's not enough research in that. It's like, but hang on a second, like, there's a lot of research out there, but it's very difficult to do research in an era of prohibition. We see now, you know, with the granting of, say, 2 million there for more research to be done, hopefully, John, there'll be more money granted. The NHL, the NHL only gave like a couple of million there last year to do a lot of research into the traumatic brain disease or disorder, whatever it's called. And cannabis, you know, the connection there, if there's benefit, happy days. So let's hope that this mum gets access through the NHS, like all the patients should be, and shouldn't be forking out this money. Should be provided for them by the NHS if they're chronic patients, you know. Bernard Schleint, my pal. It says, I think it's €1,080 a month on the license. Knowing I'm on disability on €800 a month make it make sense. It doesn't make sense. Alicia was in the same boat. She was saying, you know, with her stipend from her research, her grant and stuff like that, she just wouldn't be able to make ends meet. It just doesn't make sense. €1,080. It's just the cost itself is prohibitive. You know, she was granted a license. She couldn't come home because it was cheaper to stay in Spain and get it there rather than come home and get it legally through a license. It was crazy, you know, absolutely crazy. And all because chronic pain is not included on the medical cannabis access program. Much like your situation, if you be forced to pay that money as well, you know, if you were granted a license. So it's mad, absolutely mad. We go from there and we go back then to Malta. Let's shoot on over to Malta, where we bring some more positive news, I suppose. At least, you know, there's like a happy ending in a sense over there in Malta. This is a story of a cannabis activist over in Malta who's after been vindicated after 12 years in what's described as churning in Malta's courts, pioneering cannabis activist freed of all charges. It's hard to imagine the crime David Caruana committed in 2010, which led to his life placed under painful scrutiny for over a decade, is now not only allowed in Malta, but legally speaking, is only half of what the states permits. And this is because now in Malta you're allowed to grow 4 plants, and what David got caught with was 2 plants. He got caught with 2 cannabis plants, and for a decade his life was just, you know, scrutinizing the issues of all sorts out there campaigning. Much like myself, you know, ever since I was criminalized, you know, I've just been heavily involved in the campaigning because you suffer trauma from the injustice, and that's I think it's what's described in this article here. It's injustice causes trauma within the individual, and that's what you see manifest itself in the different say actions that I've carried out. And much like himself, I suppose, he campaigned, organized different protests over there in Malta as well. But David's journey from cannabis consumer to alleged criminal to pivotal social organizer and movement founder to freed Maltese man would be nearly comical if it didn't take such a personal toll on his life and his loved ones' mental health. So back in 2010, and this is David speaking here, I was growing 2 cannabis plants for my own consumption. He told Love in Malta days after his court case finally came to an end, recounting that fateful day. One nice sunny Sunday morning, the day England played Germany in the World Cup, to be exact. Like it's burned into his memory, you know. I don't think the game was that memorable. I think it was what happened on the day is why he just doesn't forget it. Because they just turned his world upside down, I suppose. He was getting ready for his Sunday cycling session when the CIDs, who were plainclothes policemen, knocked on his door. Apparently they spent the previous 2 nights on the block's roof trying to get a visual confirmation of the plans, but they didn't get it. And it says he described the police work as a waste of time and resources instead of going after real criminals. Caruana had no idea the level of incompetence, lack of understanding and backwards mentality he was about to come to face with for the years to come. He says growing your own weed is no different from growing your own mint or basil. So when the police knocked, I immediately cooperated with them. According to everything I believed in, I had done nothing wrong. It was the law that was wrong. again, I think myself and himself, you know, we're freaking singing from the same hymn sheet there on that. And he says today, with Malta's government allowing the growth of up to 4 cannabis plants per household following a late 2021 law update, the state is clearly caught up with David's mode of thinking. But Malta was different back then. That was just a few years after the arrest of Daniel Holmes, who was sentenced to 11 years in prison for growing cannabis in his Gozo home. It says here Malta at the time was being led by a conservative nationalist government that had been in power for nearly a quarter of a century, and the police were more than comfortable cracking down on easy targets such as people growing 2 plants. Back then, David explains, the law stated that any form of cultivation on cannabis was the same as trafficking and carried as an effective prison sentence of a minimum of 6 months to a maximum of 10 years. And what I'm saying here is an effective prison sentence basically means it's a mandatory sentence, so a judge has no possibility of doing anything less. And he says it was it's just we've seen in the past was with magistrates complaining that their hands are tied. The mere thought of losing your liberty, especially for something which the state which the same state confirms today shouldn't even be a crime, isn't easy to carry. Relieved that the sword of Damocles isn't hanging over his head anymore, David can't help but feel angry at the waste of time, energy and resources that his 12-year-long legal battle has caused. I'm angry and frustrated that so many innocent people have to suffer due to the past draconian laws before the state realised that growing your own cannabis is no crime. And consider myself lucky for having the right to support structures, stamina and a natural penchant for to give the finger to unjust laws so I could pull through and come out of this debacle more or less unscathed. But let's not forget that many others were not so lucky, and I do hope that someday the state will have the decency to compensate these individuals for all the harm they've caused to them due to the unjust and senseless laws. Throughout the 12-year ordeal, David got to see Malta's legal justice system up close, warts and all. What stayed with me overall, he says, is the inefficiency and the super slow pace of the Maltese courts, waiting months for a session which either gets deferred at the last minute or happens only for the court registrar to confirm that the accused has no other pending cases is not on. So basically, he'd show up in court and the judge would just be like, oh, he's no other cases, and the judge would say, Grant, no bother, we'll be back in the States so that they hear the case. You know, it's much like what they do here in Ireland. It's just a complete waste of time and resources. During his arrest, police officers didn't hold back from intimidating David, making him believe the worst was yet to come. And I said, according to CID, who came and knocking on his door those years ago, I was going down as back then a prison term was inevitable. But if I meet him today, I gladly ask him, who's laughing now? And to be fair, I look forward to seeing 1 or 2 cops and kind of saying that to them. The bittersweet feeling of having been vindicated in the innocence, combined with strong emotions of having have been dragged through the court system to prove it, leaves David with mixed feelings. I feel vindicated in a sense now that the laws have changed to more or less what us activists have been saying for decades. In 2008, 2 years before the police came knocking on my door, I was already given my first interview in favour of cannabis legalisation. The Christian Perrigan, back then a Times of Malta journalist. 1 minute there, guys, to 4:20 as well. Where's the next 4:20? Cape Verde. 45 seconds. But anyway, we go back. He says, I remember clearly that the editor stopped its publishing unless it also carried the opposite opinion given by a doctor, a lawyer, and a social worker. So it was the opinion of an activist against 3 professionals, and guess whose was right in the end? His, obviously, because the laws have changed now. But imagine that, you know. However, I cannot feel fully vindicated until the state recognise that the harm it has caused in the past to innocent people and pay up to compensate. No compensation will ever give back the time and opportunities taken away from these individuals, but at least they can kickstart the healing process for many. Injustice trauma, and here he mentions that injustice trauma is a real, and the state ought to take responsibility when it is the cause. That's true, man. That's what I say here as well. Injustice causes and trauma. I've suffered from it, and this is my reaction to it. this is my therapy, as I've mentioned at the start of the show, to my trauma, and hopefully someday, you know, we can really start the healing process when the prohibition is ended and there's no more triggers out there to my trauma. And others like yourselves out there listening, and I know there's a few of you out there listening who've experienced some trauma, I suppose, at the hands of the cops, the people supposed to be protecting you out there, stopping and searching you, taking away what's yours. It's not right. But it says here he's arrested not to stop David mobilising to get the topic of cannabis legalisation onto the agenda, setting up Malta's largest pro-cannabis forum, Legalise It Malta. On David, kid, you know what I mean? Turning the bad thing into a good thing. Legend. And it is 4:20 right now, guys, over there in Cape Verde. And here's a legalised cannabis protest they had. Oh, turn off that music. Boom. So this is over in Malta. Back in the day, I'd imagine, you know. The farm now. Not sure if that's David here up the front, the bald guy with the little chin hair. I don't know. I didn't get a proper look at David. Cannabis is safer than tobacco and alcohol. Growing at plant is not trafficking drugs. Criminals on the roads, potheads in jails. That's the cops in Malta. What is the job? So there you go. That was one of their events that was held over in Malta, who have since changed their laws, and you can now legally grow plants at home, grow collectives, and all of that fun stuff. I know there's a lot of limitations over there, but happy days, they've still changed it. Before LIM, which is Legalise It Malta, there was practically nothing apart from a handful of activists lobbying politicians for a change in law. Legalise It Malta placed the issue of cannabis legalisation into the spotlight by organising protests and demonstrations, and by voicing our opinions on local TV, radio, newspapers, and directly lobbying politicians. That was the first time Malta had a pro-legalisation voice in all local media. Activism and LIM moved to create Relief later on, which is until this very day the most vocal pro-legalisation lobby group in Malta. Relief, also the same name as the cafe in Dungarvan and Clonmel. While David can never be sure of the long-term effects of his ongoing effects his organising has done, he believes it is inevitable to notice that Legalise It Malta was the seed of it all, pun intended. He also believes the group may have inadvertently led to the Labour Party picking up cannabis as a social issue they wanted to push. The Labour Party used cannabis and Cambridge Analytica in the 2013 election, David said, with their quasi-military crowd manipulation tech. I'm quite convinced that the large numbers joining the Legalise It Malta Facebook group, which has 20,000 members today, the high activity on its pages could have been flagged by their algorithm and placed cannabis laws on top of the party's agenda. By the way, with the court case finally behind him and his government going beyond what many activists had even hoped through a promised new cannabis social club industry has yet to materialise, David is left in two minds. I'm naturally adverse to injustice and quite vocal on various other social issues, he concluded. I'm still unsure if I want to put all of this behind me and forget about it, or put my aversion to injustice to good use. Maybe it's time to join the only political group which has ever made sense on these islands, i.e. movement graffiti. Oh, I have one question for the government. What happened to those cannabis social clubs? There you go. What happened to social clubs? Is there not movement? Is there no movement over there on that? What's movement graffiti? I'm looking that up now. Left-wing radical environmental non-governmental organisation. All right. I thought they like done graffiti. I was waiting to see a load of graffiti pop up or something. No, these guys are serious. Come on, David. Looks like these guys are fucking cool. Go join these guys. I don't know, but this is like serious. I don't like anybody extremely on any wing. No, I don't like extremism. Unless, it's extreme love for cannabis. That I can get behind, but anything else, balance. But yeah, that's Malta, and that is it. And I believe for today, I don't believe I have anything else there that I really wanted to delve into. But I do have to thank each and every one of you guys for staying here with me, for keeping that hotbox populated. I know I haven't been very engaging with you today as I've been belting through some of this stuff, but I will get back to the hotbox there now and we'll give shout outs. 2 hours and 5 minutes into the stream. Nice healthy dose of 420 news for today. Me old Flower says I enjoy your interview with Eagle. Nice one, me old Flower. Just looking back through the comments here now. Social Pirate Keyboard Warrior, what's happening? Late arrival happen 420 in some countries. Yes. Way. Man, hit the wine glass. Full pack there, we're going to blaze up in a sec. Shout out's going though. Mr. Finnegan says, as Dr. Garrett McGovern said, anytime he is asked to debate a prohibitionist, he wins without saying one word. That's it, you know what I mean? You just show up and you just sit there and you listen to them and you're just digging a hole for themselves. Everything just comes out of their mouth. It's just garbage at this stage, MB, I'm going to make every effort to make myself more available and more present here on the online world, as upcoming cases as well potentially could have some custodial sentences awarded to me. Jail time meaning. So I think it is important just to keep the voice going, keep it going out there, and I suppose if it comes to it, if I was to be put in behind the prison, behind bars, into a prison, my voice will still be getting out, because I'm granted a 6-minute phone call every day, and that will be recorded and uploaded. So we'll keep beating the drum even from behind the bars. Potentially, if I do get sent to prison, I'll be denied access to my medicine, most likely will be refusing food. So we'll see what happens there. If I'm refusing food, I don't know if they'll restrict my access to phones. They shouldn't be able to, but I will be engaging in some form of protest behind bars anyway. So we'll see what happens. Fingers crossed anyway. Got the power of appeal, so this is only the first case, district court. I'll appeal it, I'll bring it to the circuit court. But again, if no guarantees that there's going to be no prison sentences coming my way. We'll see. But yeah, I'll definitely try to get back on here myself a lot more often. MB says a loud percolating bong would be a great ringtone. Anybody want the one for the Martin's World? I'll send it your way, no bother at all. Here you go, guys. Get the record ready. We'll blaze this up in a couple of secs, alright? Daily Talker says it's just not the same without the sound. I took a hit before with the headphones on and it threw off my rhythm. Yeah, it's so true. Like, if you ever take a hit off like the bong without water in it, I've done it once or twice accidentally, and like, okay, it's a bit harsher, but it's just not fun. You need that bubbling. You need that feedback. So let's go with this anyway. Serious Black on the way. Civil disobedience as always. Much love back at you, Neil Crow. Mr. Finnegan says, let's hope we don't have to watch 420 News live from lockdown. Fingers crossed there for that as well, Mr. Finnegan. Fingers crossed. Some of those phone calls could be emotional ones. as they'll probably be quite personal as well. You know, I'll be sharing family time with you, as be the nature of it. Like, we see what happens. Excuse me. Also, I got a warning letter from the courts. I had to bring this one up. The court's gone on to me there recently, and sorry, loads of people have probably left already. But the court's gone on to me €400 I owe them because I never paid a fine last year. Remember last year I was in court for a joint they caught me with in 2019, April 2019. I got caught with one cannabis joint and they valued it at €10. A judge gave me a €400 fine, which I refused to pay. I should have appealed the case most possibly, but I didn't. I just was like, no, F you, you're not getting your €400. That's my protest. I'm not paying your fine. F off. But now they're hunting me. They sent me out a warning letter, so I passed. That's going to be followed now by summons to court, and possibly, you know, a prison sentence then as well in lieu of payment of the fine. So we'll see what happens. But the protests continue. You know what I mean? I won't be paying any fines. I've done nothing wrong. I'll stand by my principles. I've done nothing wrong. My use of cannabis should never have been an issue that the government needed to intervene with. Cause no problems to anybody. I just sat here for the last almost a half hours, blazing up with all you fine folks. Many of you out there also engaging in this use of cannabis, you know, and nobody came to any harm. In fact, there's probably people out there, you know, live, you know, suffering there in bed who've come to harm because of the prohibition of cannabis while we sit here. You know, so while we hurt nobody, the prohibitionists out there are actively hurting people indirectly by their support of prohibition. So, you know, if you support prohibition, you support hurting people, and I don't like hurting people unless you're across me in the ring and we both got gloves on. Then it's fair game by boxing rules. But you know what I mean, guys, the prohibition of cannabis is wrong. I stand by my principles on that, and if I have to go to prison for that, and so be it. I'll be a martyr for the cause, and we'll continue to fight it. It's wrong what they're doing. It's injustice, and we have to fight it at every freaking opportunity we get. Because if we don't, you know, there's going to be others following us, and we're going to suffer, you know, for our inactions, and we're as responsible then for it as the prohibitionists, I suppose. That's how I see it. That's how I feel about it. I don't judge nobody for not doing stuff, you know, to each their own. If you don't want to be out there, if you don't want to be front of the line, you know, if I can hand in joints into the guards, totally understand. Don't blame people for not wanting to do that, but that's what needs to be done. I got summonses there recently, you know, and it's like fucking, alright, I'm imagining like about that thick, about like 40 pages, evidence, statements, freaking court summons, all this kind of stuff, all from one case. So there was a Gary Doyle order given, so they have to give me all the evidence that was there against me in the case for Middleton. And there's a pile of pages, like it's fairly thick, statements and stuff, and it all represents time of the Gardaí. That's what we need to engage in, you know what I mean? So that case in Middleton, I sent a giant out. Like that's what we need to do. We just need to engage. If they're so fucking hellbent in wasting their time and resources, and the policymakers are hellbent in ignoring us, you literally like that's fucking Frankie Fian when it comes to his Twitter posts. You know, he'd post and go stick up his photo of himself at the GA. You know, that's Frankie Fian. Frankie fold his arms, take his photo Fian. Certainly not the minister with responsibility for any sort of drug policy. It wouldn't seem. As I said, fucking hands over his ears, just ignorant as they come. So when that's the type of policy maker we have, you've no choice but to engage in these type of protests. And if I have to go down, fucking, I hope I'm not going down alone. Hopefully it'll invigorate more people to get out there and say, like, this is injustice. Martin shouldn't be in prison, and, you know, come on up outside the prison, and, you know, civil disobedience, fucking little, I would just say a little cannabis camp out. Get everybody out there, tents, cannabis, blaze on up, let me smell you from the other side of the wall. That's what I hope anyway. That's what I hope. Let's see. Well, no, that's what I hope if I was to get locked up. I hope I don't get locked up. That's what I really hope. I really hope I don't get locked up. I don't want to get locked up. Oh, God, but I'm prepared. As prepared as you can be anyway, you know what I mean? It's horrible. Man Falls, what's happening? Man Falls out there as well. Says last week or two for a shroom season, isn't it? It is, yeah. We're coming very close now to the frosty mornings. Like, I haven't really seen any hard frost there just yet. But we're coming very close. Once you see those hard frosts, that's pretty much the end of mushy season. That's for sure. But yeah, it's still time for picking if you can get out there. Man Falls as a box, Martin, hoping the best to you. Nice with Man Falls. Not many people have definitely got lots of well wishes out there for me. I've gotten so much support. I've gotten support from the most unlikeliest of places, like my old principal of my old school in secondary school. Like he's like, seeing some of your content, seeing what you've done, and he's like, fair play. Like John, he'd be like, I'm not going to go into everything that he said. But he's like, fair play. I was just shocked. I thought he was going to like tell me off. Didn't have one bad thing to say. Just blown away. I was like, we've really turned the corner on this. MB Sanchez says, when laws are immoral, moral people must resist them. 100%. Dreamer77 says, I could see the courts getting mad at you for rushing something they already plan on doing, as the world is slowly doing. I know, but Dreamer, you know, we as citizens, when we face injustice, we just can't sit idly by while we know others out there are facing the same injustice too. Will patients suffer? You know, we have that, because we're not really rushing something. This is something, as I said, Luke Ming Flanagan, 21 years ago on November 5th, it was engaging in a campaign to inform and educate the policymakers back then about it. It's not really something that we're trying to rush. It's something that's like it's long overdue, you know. But I can certainly see the courts wanting to make an example of me for my antics, you know, my protests. But as I said, I hope they don't. But if they do, I'm turning, you know, every cloud is a silver lining. You know, that's all I'll say. I'll turn something bad into something good as best I can. You know, be at the expense. You know, I'm not. While I can handle it, you know, I have to always acknowledge I've got family as well. I've got 3 little kids, a 4th one on the way. They're going to be down a dad for that time being. You know, I've got a partner who's going to be down a partner. It's going to be a lot of people going to be down. You know, it's going to be having mom and dad. They're going to be down a son, brother and sister, down a brother. Oh, going to be consequences to it if, you know, but it's what goes on, and this was just not what's seen. You know, we look at that case a while ago, you know, that case that was up 3.5 years for that man, like, and I'm sorry, I know I said I'd end this, you know, but 3.5 years, we're not seeing this. You know, this man said he was making time for family. Who's this family? How were they affected by this? You know, do they think, oh yeah, shame on him? And if so, shame on them. Because they're just feeding into the harm, the stigma of what's going to happen to this person. He's done nothing wrong. He's not. Those people he sold cannabis to, as long as they want kids, they were all happy. Even if they were kids, they were probably happy too. But yes, guys, I will. That was like one of the Longo Boys. It's been a while since I've been on here, so yeah, Longo Boy. Billy Bond says 28 years I've been protesting this law. 28 years, Billy, man, that's so long. I thought I was fucking, you know, feeling that it was long, but I was 17, so I'm 33 now. 15 years. No, sorry, 16 years. That's what I've kind of been, how long I've been protesting it. I first kind of got caught. But yeah, 28 years, man. Dreamer, governments are really slow at doing things. Roy Duggan, when freedom is outlawed, only outlaws will be free. That does make sense, doesn't it? You know, because currently, I was only saying this the other day in conversation to somebody else. You know, currently, you know, why be afraid of prison when we aren't free currently? If you can't put a seed in the ground and grow a plant, are you really free? Why do you fear a prison? When you go in there, sure, it's just going to be a few more restrictions. You're still getting your hot meals a day. You're getting your social activities. You're getting your TV and your books and gym and all of that stuff. You know, so what are people really afraid of? It's not really that bad. We're not really free today. We've got an illusion of freedom currently under the oppressive laws the government have over us around drug consumption. Anyway, we talk about other laws too, but you know, drug consumption is what we're here for. Last few words there, John Finnegan, King Shanker, howdy, bro. Enjoy your words, Martin. Nice one, Dreamer. Billy Bond says hi, John Finnegan, and Twisted says I'm late. Afternoon all. What's happening? Hi, Twisted. Hi, Twisted. We're just saying goodbye here, Twisted. So you can watch back if you want 2 hours of some news content, a bit of update to my own situation here in Ireland, and a bit of news from around the world as well, and cannabis stuff, and a bit of crack, some civil disobedience too as well, aka bong hits. So if you want to watch back, hit that rewind button, I will start saying goodbye. So guys, Mr. Finnan, 5-minute warning, Martin. I did. I got 5-minute warning. Movie night tonight. So yeah, we have to start shutting down there now. Twisted says Leroy. Nice and Twisted. Nice one. Guys, I'll make an every effort to get back here. I'll schedule a stream as soon as I know I have the time free to get it done. I'll aim myself for a stream actually on Wednesday, guys. I'll be in court on Wednesday, so I'll be aiming to do a stream before that down there in down there in Middleton. So keep an eye out for that. That'll be Wednesday morning. I'm scheduled to be back in the court at 10:30. So that's Wednesday at 10:30. I'll aim to do a live, so it'll be sometime after 10. I won't have it scheduled, but as soon as I get down there to the court, I'll do something outside there. I'll hit the live button, I'll update you. I'll do it live afterwards. I'll give you a live update as well after the case. And hopefully it won't be in handcuffs. And as I said, I hope to have company there with me as well on the day, just to bring more validity to what we're doing, and very much part of the day. So I'll say nothing. I hope it's going to be a surprise for you on the day. It's going to be like, yeah, look who's there. Excellent. So fingers crossed that this person can make it. Fingers crossed. Hazmat, what's happening? Says, hey man, thing just missed you evidently. What's happening? Shout out to Hazmat there as well. Anyway, yeah, you can watch it back anyway, Hazmat. And yeah, there wasn't a whole lot of new stuff there. We kind of covered the Germany stuff, a bit of other news from around the world, but yeah, a bit of updates on my own stuff as well back in court on Wednesday. So MV Sanchez, 3 things that can kill us quickly: sugar, alcohol, and high fructose corn syrup. Yeah, man, that's true, and these things are freely available. In fact, we give them to our kids all the time. This is a conversation I'm always trying to talk about, and I look at it all. Oh man, it just scares me. You do a quick search of kids' lunchboxes going to school, and the level of sugar in a lunchbox is sometimes it can be 3 times above the daily recommended amount of sugar for an adult. Okay, 3 times above it. Sugar, like specifically just sugar. No, I'm not talking about carbs, like sugar. Like look at your kids. Fucking what do they be giving them? Frubes and things like that. Like there'd be a fair bit of sugar in them. Daily recommended dose of sugar for adults is like 25 grams. Kids be going into school like what would they be giving them? My Wadi and stuff like that. But my Wadi's probably not even that bad, but there's probably some other bad ones out there. Liv, yeah, thanks very much for your comments and contributions today, Liv. Good luck with the court. Lots of positive vibes. You did nothing wrong. 100%. Yeah. Guys, everybody, thanks everybody for contributions. Much love to everybody out there, guys. And yeah, we are not criminals, guys. Keep fighting the thing. Stay ablaze. Keep her lit. And I'll be back sometime soon. If I don't get a 420 news between now and Wednesday. See you Wednesday. Much love. Bye.